The story begins in a snow-covered mountain region, where bone-chilling blizzards blow all year round, and a secluded structure stands in Eastern Europe. There is a solitary building on that land, also known as the White Hell, rumored to be the secret base of an anti-government organization in Eastern Europe. Footsteps echo, bare feet and a pair of black boots appear. The gang leader has never shown his face in ordinary situations. However, he might show up when executing informants. An informant, hooded and hands bound, is being escorted somewhere by a group of soldiers. One of the soldiers slaps the shoulder of the newly captured informant. The informant is forced to kneel on the execution platform in a large room, surrounded by the gang leader and his many soldiers. The leader, with a cold expression, stares straight at him. A soldier tears the hood off the informant, who is being strangled by a rope, and shouts that this filthy rat has threatened our glory. Hang this bastard. The name of the mole is Shin Hyuk. He weakly looks up. The leader looks at him and calls out his code name, Chiorni. A soldier rips the tape off Shin Hyuk's mouth, and the leader asks him if he has any last words. He looks at the man with contempt, then spits. He says just 2 words, cuckoo. The leader shouts in surprise. Shin Hyuk continues, the cuckoo doesn't live in the dark. The leader smirks and laughs. He said smugly, nonsense. It seems that our brutal methods of torture have finally broken your will. As soon as he finished speaking, he gave the order to his subordinate, execute him now. The subordinate obeyed, yes, sir. He flipped the switch. The wooden plank opened, causing Shin Hyuk to be left hanging in midair. The leader coldly looked around and warned those nearby, watch closely. Witness the tragic fate of anyone who dares to oppose us. Suddenly, a soldier cried out in panic, leader. He froze, turning back to look. Shin Hyuk was still alive, still cutting the rope that was strangling him with a knife. The soldier behind raised his gun, ready to shoot. The leader was so stunned he couldn't utter a word. That guy. The soldier holding the gun was suddenly shot. The leader was astonished. What on earth is happening? A soldier named Carter is laughing and pointing his pistol directly at him. Shin Hyuk is still trying to cut the rope. Back when he was being escorted, he secretly carried a small knife. A soldier glanced over and noticed it, but he did not expose him. Behind Shin Hyuk, under the execution platform, a long-haired soldier named Lucas suddenly drew 2 knives and charged at another soldier. With just a few swift strikes, Lucas severed the soldier's head from his neck. Carter is surrounded, so he throws his gun into the air and calls for the leader, the boss. Shin Hyuk breaks free from the rope, then leaps up. Immediately, he flies over and catches Carter's gun. He grabs a gun in each hand, ready to jump down. Shin Hyuk begins his counterattack, raising his guns and firing in all directions. His shots take down the soldiers like wheat, helping Carter break free from the siege. Every bullet lands right in the forehead of a soldier, like candy. The leader, terrified, stands with 2 bodyguards behind him. Suddenly, the large soldier Tenga appeared, blocking the path of the 2 soldiers. He rammed straight into one of them. The other soldier was quickly approached from behind by Eiji, who attacked him at high speed, making him cry out in pain. He electrocuted the soldier, causing him to convulse. He collapsed helplessly to the ground, dropping his gun. Eiji walked past him, while the other soldier groaned in despair. He said coldly, goodbye. By now, Tenga was already standing behind the leader. He panicked, turned around and stammered, rebellion? Who are you people? A few smoke grenades were thrown, and smoke began to spread throughout the room. On this side, Shin Hyuk is being surrounded by 2 soldiers. A soldier is about to pull the trigger. Shin Hyuk's expression remained unchanged. He quickly moved toward the soldier and landed several blows on him. Both soldiers fired their guns, and 2 streams of bullets whizzed past Shin Hyuk's face. The soldier he had just struck was hit by a bullet in the forehead and slowly collapsed. Shin Hyuk turned around and looked back. The room now looked like a battlefield. The leader was surrounded and all his men had been taken out by Shin Hyuk and his allies. Eiji was already holding headphones and a gas mask, and Shin Hyuk calmly walked over to him and took the headphones. He put the headphones on, and Eiji reminded him in surprise, Captain, don't forget your gas mask. The leader was now terrified, sitting on the ground, inching backward and crying out. Shin Hyuk pressed the gun to his forehead, and the man screamed in terror, save me. Shin Hyuk executed him with a pull of the trigger, picked up the phone, and said, the rooster is dead. All enemies have been dealt with. As soon as he finished speaking, he put on the gas mask. Carter, wearing a mask, turns to you and starts releasing gas. He presses the button on his wristwatch to activate the gas release. The gas begins to spread thickly. The gas gradually fills the entire room. A soldier uses a silenced gun to shoot another round into the head of the soldier lying on the ground. The long-haired soldier is Liam Lucas, a German national. He glances over and says, this mission wrapped up way too fast. The blonde soldier, Carter, an American, raises his gun in the air and grins smugly. You managed to draw out the target just with a noose? Impressive, kid. The tall soldier is Tamweratanga, from New Zealand. He clasps his hands together, sighs, then calmly says, "This mission really is tough, especially with Larohanga in charge. We should value our lives. They are Task Force 55 of the International Anti-Terrorism Covert Organization." Shin Hyuk looked at them and gave a faint smile. It consists of 5 agents carefully selected from around the world, all top elites. The silver-haired soldier, Arataki Eiji, fired another shot into the back of the person lying on the ground and remarked, "Honestly, I thought we were done already." Shin Hyuk looked at Eiji and asked, "Arataki Eiji, how many missions have you completed so far?" He proudly replied, listing his achievements, including domestic operations and those with Task Force 55, a total of 76 missions. Shin Hyuk glanced at the bullet wound on the back of the fallen soldier and emotionlessly reminded Eiji, "To confirm a kill, you need to check if the bullet went through the target's head." He continued, "Carefully check every body." As soon as he finished, Eiji snapped to attention and replied, "Understood, I'll check right away." Shin Hyuk pressed his earpiece and reported, December 24, 202x, 8:30 a.m. The Eastern European operation has concluded. They blew up the base, and Task Force 55 was officially disbanded. A footprint appeared on the white snow. Shin Hyuk donned a white cloak and walked under the snowy sky, now the world's top unofficial undercover agent. His handsome, striking face exuded a cold indifference. Lee Shin Hyuk, a Korean national, was the former leader of Team 55 and now, a member of Korea's intelligence agency. The Black Panther Task Force. At a certain mansion, in the underground office of the President of South Korea, Shin Hyuk appeared, looking dashing in a suit, standing in the president's office. The Black Panther captain stood before him and clapped. He asked Shin Hyuk how it feels to become a Reaper. Lee Do-won. Shin Hyuk replied indifferently, "Nothing special." Do-won, looking annoyed, said, "Hey, cut it out, I'm sick of that attitude, but I have to admit your performance in other countries' territories was impressive." Shin Hyuk didn't care about his attitude and asked, puzzled, "It's just work, why praise me for it?" Do-won commented, "But to get yourself on the gallows like you did, damn, so that's where your nickname Vanta Black comes from." Someone else interrupted their conversation, "Hey, Black Panther. That was Choi Ik-soo, director of the Planning and Cooperation Department of NIS. He adjusted his glasses and said, "The VIPs are about to arrive, stop chatting." A voice announced, "The president is entering," and a man walked into the room. The president looks around at everyone in the room. He calls for Shin Hyuk. "Lee Shin Hyuk, please step forward." Ik-soo announces that Lee Shin Hyuk of the NIS Black Ops team, "In recognition of your loyal service, you are officially awarded the title of the first Vanta Black among NIS's elite agents." He takes out a certificate. Vanta Black is known as a master of target elimination. From this moment on, you are officially separated from the Black Ops team and assigned a mission of the highest security level. Shin Hyuk remains standing there, his face betraying no emotion. The president appears in a car. "This mission means you must serve as a special bodyguard for the head of state, the president, operating from the shadows." That's why Shin Hyuk must quietly stand in a dark corner, watching the president's car from a distance. Back at the office, South Korean President Kon Byung-jin greets him warmly with a smile. "It's an honor to meet you." The president approaches and pins a badge onto his jacket. He gently tells him, "My life is in your hands now. I trust you'll do well." He promises the president, "I, Lee Shin-hyun Vanta Black, will carry out this mission with utmost seriousness." The Vanta Black badge sits neatly on his suit, and Shin-hyun silently vows, "I will protect you at all costs." His phone lights up with a call from Lee Suman. Shin Hyuk answers and greets her warmly, "Suman." Suman is Shin Hyuk's younger sister. She happily congratulates him, "Congratulations on your promotion, brother." He gently tells her, "I'm about to finish work. Let's talk when I get home." She refused and suddenly told him, "Sorry, but I'm at the airport now. I'm about to go abroad." Shin Hyuk asked in surprise, "Huh? Why so sudden? Didn't you just get back from a business trip? And now this?" Suman cut him off, "Sorry, but the company is finally letting me debut in a girl group that's called Yoo Chaewon's Little Sisters." She excitedly shared with her brother, "So I'll be a backup dancer for her to gain more experience on the South American tour." She asked him, "What do you think? Isn't it great?" Shin Hyuk curiously asked, "Who's Yoo Chaewon that you're so excited to go all the way to South America?" She was shocked and couldn't believe her ears. She asked him, "What? Are you kidding me?" He awkwardly asked, "Is she famous?" A beautiful girl appeared in a sexy stage outfit. Suman hurriedly asked him, "How could you not know who she is?" "The K-pop queen, Yoo Chaewon." She shouted into the phone, "An international top artist taking the world by storm." He helplessly held the phone away from his ear. But then Suman's voice softened. She imagined herself becoming a star and excitedly said, "Now your sister, Lee Suman, will be her successor." Shin Hyuk regretfully told her, "It's a pity I can't see you right now, but if you're happy, then I'm happy too." Suman felt a bit reluctant. She pouted and said to him, "You're my only family, after all these years working so hard, I finally get to see you again, but in the end, we're parting like this." He called her name sadly, Suman. She quickly composed herself and cheerfully promised, "When I come back, I'll cook you a delicious meal, your favorite, spicy stir-fried pork, okay?" Shin Hyuk felt a bit more at ease. He gently reminded her, "Okay, remember to take care of yourself and come home safely. Call often, too." Suman said to him, "Thank you, love you so much." He replied, Me too." He smiled gently, "I love you so much too, my little sister." But that was the last conversation. In the dark room with the lit-up computer, between me and Suman. Now, in the empty room, the steady sound of the news report echoes. On the computer screen, the headline reads, "K-pop star Yoo Chae-won assassinated." Shin Hyuk sits dejectedly on the floor. The Vanta black badge has been broken by him. A man opens the door and enters the room. Shin Hyuk looks at him and asks, "Why are you here?" Mr. Iksu walks over and scolds him, "You bastard Lee Shin Hyuk, what do you think you're doing?" He sadly tells him, "Your company could still do well if they had time to worry about retirees, but I no longer belong to this country." Iksu shouted angrily, "Lee Shin Hyuk, he questioned you, but you kept your head down, indifferent. You know everyone sees Vanta Black as a walking weapon, right? That's why, even though this involves a superstar like Yoo Chae-won, most media outlets are trying to bury the story, as if someone is deliberately manipulating the flow of information." Shin Hyuk replied in disappointment, "All I've managed to find so far is a single name, Bloff, and the identity is still unknown." A scene of a distant land appears, and it seems this name is connected to a drug lord in Central and South America. Both the identity and witnesses involved are impossible to investigate. Iksu tried to comfort him, "Tisk, I know your sister's death was a tragedy, but that's all in the past now." Shin Hyuk confided, "She was everything to me." Iksu's face looks sad. He comforts him, "I know how much that girl means to you, but Lee Shin Hyuk, you're crossing the line. For your own safety, please stop." He brings up the past in Brazil, about a man. "Remember, it happened in Brazil. No one knows that place better than you do. South America is never peaceful." Shin Hyuk's expression turns cold at the next words. "If you keep digging, the agency will have no choice but to eliminate you." He asks, "Eliminate me?" He rushes at Iksu like lightning, presses a large needle to his neck, and stares intently. He glares and challenges him, "Go ahead, try it." He shows no fear and asks, "If you kill me here, will you get what you want?" "Has your reasoning really become this desperate?" Shin Hyuk grimaces. He snaps the needle and throws it on the floor. He turned his back and said to Iksu, "From now on, don't interfere in my affairs." He seemed upset and said, "I was wrong to think I could advise you. Consider this a warning." After saying that, he stormed out and slammed the door. Shin Hyuk saw a piece of paper left on the floor. He bent down to pick it up. He wondered, did Choi Iksu drop this? Then he looked at the clues and information posted on the wall. Suddenly, he realized something, Suman, and the security company exclusively for Yoo Chae-won. On the piece of paper was the information of that security company, the top security company in Korea, Fenders Inc., CEO Baek Jun-wo, located in Seoul. The only thing on his mind was security. A year later, at an airport somewhere, there was a noisy commotion. There she was, Choi Seeyeon. Seeyeon. A beautiful girl was walking with a crowd of fans surrounding her, constantly calling her name. Choi Seeyeon, Seeyeon, you're so beautiful. The chubby bodyguard was pushing back the fans, annoyed, saying, "Hey, damn it, you're going to get hurt. Move aside." Another bodyguard was listening to the radio. "Wow, did these kids just take some pills today or what? Why are they so enthusiastic?" He then complained, "If it weren't for this incident, I could have spent the whole day just standing guard. Damn it." He spoke into the radio, "Once we're done here, let's go eat some pork belly and have a round of drinks." The chubby guard agreed, "Pork belly, sounds good. We need to wash all this dust out of our throats." They chatted behind Seeyeon, and the guard walking beside her said, "Hey, that guy just sticks close to celebrities and strolls right through. Damn it, why do we have to suffer like this?" "Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I can't stand that bastard Lee Shin Hyuk," the chubby guard was saying when he suddenly spotted a suspicious person and blurted out in surprise, "That strange-faced man is also looking your way." The bodyguard asks through the walkie-talkie, "What's going on, is there a problem?" The man pulls out something glowing, The chubby guy instinctively shouts, "Wait, the guy in the hoodie over there." The chubby guy panics and reports, "What is that? He's holding something." Turns out the man is actually a crazed fan. He suddenly rushes forward, excitedly shouting, "Love you forever, Choi Si-yeon." He bumps into the chubby guy, who yells a warning, "What the hell, bastard, you." Suddenly the chubby guy falters, crying out in pain. In the crowded airport, both his and the chubby bodyguard's screams ring out, "Choi Si-yeon, what are you doing? Get that lunatic." He runs toward Ms. Si-yeon and shouts, "Si-yeon, I have something for you. Move, can't you see I'm a fan?" Hearing that, Si-yeon turns around in panic, but the bodyguard is already shielding her. An urgent order comes through the walkie-talkie, "Guards, stop him now." The bodyguard next to her touched his earpiece to receive orders. His feet immediately lifted. He grabbed the crazy fan by the collar. Effortlessly lifting the fan, he flipped him upside down. He kept slamming the guy to the ground. Everyone there was in shock. The bodyguard pressed his earpiece to report, "Handled. I need backup." That bodyguard was Shin Hyuk. He told the crazy fan, "Don't resist, or you'll get hurt." The guy stubbornly argued, "Let go, I'm just a fan." A while later, a bald guy was live streaming an expose at the hospital, filming the crazy fan lying in a hospital bed. He spoke up to defend the fan on the stream. "What's this? Damn, guys and girls, is this okay? Damn it, this loyal fan just wanted to meet his idol, but some random guard slammed him to the ground. He keeps complaining, saying idols aren't royalty, asking if this attitude is some kind of celebrity syndrome. Is this the true face of the Korean entertainment industry?" There were some people commenting on the live stream. Someone named King Dongin said, "Ha ha ha, there are a lot of crazy fans, so it's understandable to be cautious." Another person named Nam Da-eul expressed, "But that was excessive protection. How can you just throw someone to the ground like that?" The bald guy brings the camera closer to the obsessed fan, who acts pitiful, crying and saying, "Sob. I just wanted to give my heartfelt gift to Choi Si-yeon, sob." Hearing this, the bald guy adds fuel to the fire, blowing the story up. The gangster bodyguard beat a fan without hesitation. Everyone saw it, right? The painful tears of this middle-aged fan. "Oh. Mom, why is life so unfair to me?" A netizen named Kyung Ho Shin commented, "Sigh, those bodyguards treat this as a way to relieve stress, huh?" Someone named Ji-yu Endong said, "Ha ha ha, King Ho won, what an extreme teammate." Another person named Oh Sulgi thought, "Wasn't Si-yeon the same? Just stood there and watched without stopping it." The video is paused, and a man's voice is heard, "Well done, very well." At Defender's private security company, in the CEO's office, he's reprimanding Shin Hyuk, do you want this company to go bankrupt?" He scolds Shin Hyuk while pressing the TV remote, "Look what you've done. Last year, there was an accident in South America, and we just barely recovered from that. But now you're causing more trouble?" Turns out this man is Baek Joon-wook, the company's CEO. Shin Hyuk explains to him, "I handled it according to the emergency response manual." The CEO shouts, "Manual?" Joon-wook asks Shin Hyuk, "Did you just say that's the manual?" He points the remote at him, glaring as he asks, "What kind of manual says you should throw a fan to the ground?" Angrily, he tosses the remote behind him. Shin Hyuk explains, he was holding a weapon that could threaten the client's safety. Joon-wook yells furiously, "A weapon? Wasn't that just a fountain pen that fan was going to give as a gift?" He shouts so loud the veins on his neck bulge, "How are you going to take responsibility for all the public criticism, just because of that damn manual?" Shin Hyuk stubbornly says, "Even if I have to face the same situation again, I'll still act according to the manual." Joon-wook glares at him in rage, "Hey, are you trying to make me look like an idiot? I had to hire some unemployed guy the first don't even know, and now look at this." He threatens him, "You're finished." Suddenly, there's the sound of a door opening. A girl with glasses opens the door, about to walk in, when the CEO turns around and snaps at her, "What's this? Can't you see we're having a private conversation?" The girl timidly introduces herself, "I'm so sorry, sir. I'm from C-Tree Entertainment." He immediately changes his attitude, surprised, "Oh, C-Tree? Has it been that long already?" The only person who could make him this friendly is Ji Junhik, the manager from C-Tree Entertainment. He walks in and greets him, "Ah, it's been a while, President Baek. I hope I didn't schedule this meeting too abruptly." Joon-wook excitedly clasps his hands in greeting, "Oh, director, don't be so formal. I'm always ready for you." Junhik smiles warmly and gently asks, "Aren't you in the middle of an important meeting?" Joon-wook eagerly denies it, "No, it's nothing important, just some small talk," while turning to Shin Hyuk and ordering him to leave. "Get out of here now, brat." Shin Hyuk stands up and bows. Director Junhik saw Shin Hyuk, immediately recognized him and asked, "Huh, by the way, are you the one who became famous after that incident of assaulting a fan last time? He looked at this person suspiciously. Junhik still chatted cheerfully, wow, that's great, I was really hoping to meet him, Director Beck, are you okay with this? Jun-wook turned to look at Shin Hyuk. Then looked back up and replied, our bodyguard Lee Shin Hyuk. What's going on? Junhik, surprisingly enthusiastic, said, well, perfect timing, let me explain quickly, you know, the government-sponsored K-pop tour in South America is coming up. Right? Jun-wook quickly responded, oh, it's here already? Time really flies. Junhik brought up South America again, of course, we did run into some unfortunate incidents before, but the Central and South American markets are huge, so Citri can't miss this opportunity. Jun-wook, hearing this, made a promise, we take full responsibility for what happened last time. If we're given another chance, this time, we definitely. Shin Hyuk followed their conversation. Junhik said to Jun-wook, that's right, we want your company to help us one more time, but there's one condition, we want this person to escort Yu Chaewon. Jun-wook asked in astonishment, what, who's responsible for whom, why? Junhik explained, oh, this is a special request from Ms. Yu Chaewon herself. Jun-wook looked back at Shin Hyuk and awkwardly made a suggestion to Director Junhik, could she maybe choose a different bodyguard? This person, Lee Shin Hyuk, just had his contract terminated because of the previous incident. Junhik was surprised, terminated, really? He hadn't finished speaking when the door opened again. Yu Chaewon walked in from outside and asked him, Director G, are you done yet? Jun-wook saw her and gaped, wow, Ms. Yu Chaewon, while Director Junhik asked in surprise, Chaewon, what are you doing here? She hovered at the door and explained to him, I heard the bodyguard was here, so I wanted to see what's going on. He glanced at Shin Hyuk, then told her, I heard he just had his contract terminated. The woman pushed the door open and said, really? Then that's fine. She walked up to Jun-wook and Junhik, saying, now I can talk to him directly. Junhik asked curiously, what do you mean? While Jun-wook added, Ms. Yu Chaewon, this bodyguard Lee Shin Hyuk caused a big incident not long ago. But you defended Shin Hyuk, saying he didn't cause the accident, but rather prevented it. You looked at the image of the crazy fan on the video showing on the TV, that guy. You revealed that he didn't just stalk Seon, but also followed me for years. Jun-wook was surprised, what do you mean? Chaewon explained to them that if Lee Shin Hyuk hadn't caught him, someone else would have gotten hurt. She added, extreme or not, I need someone who prioritizes my safety above everything else, someone who will protect me no matter the situation. Shin Hyuk heard this but just lowered his head in silence. Chaewon expressed, honestly, I don't want to go to South America. After everything that's happened, having to go there again is really scary. Hearing that, Junhik was startled and scared. She continued, you know how hard it's been for me because of that, but both the company and the foreign ministry insist I have to go. She made her argument, and if that's the case, at the very least I have the right to choose my own bodyguard, don't I? After all I've contributed to Citri, I feel like I deserve that much. Junhik immediately tried to calm her down, I understand, Chaewon, I get what you're saying, he said tactfully, but I also have to be careful and consider things. Let's talk it over first. She stayed silent for a few minutes, her thin red lips pursed alluringly. She put on a stern face and threatened, Manager Ji Junhik, if it's not him, I'm not going. Junhik was extremely awkward, and Chaewon threatened him again, you know what will happen to our company's stocks if I make it clear that I'm not going, right? He reluctantly agreed, fine, I'll do it. Jun-wook, standing beside him, looked sympathetic and said to them, oh no, don't worry about us. Our Shin Hyuk just renewed his contract. Of course he'll be allowed to. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned to Shin Hyuk and ordered him, what are you doing, Shin Hyuk? Aren't you going to greet her properly? He looked up with an expressionless gaze. Chaewon glanced at him and gave a slight smile. She picked up her sunglasses and said, I have another schedule, so I'll leave first. She looked at Shin Hyuk and said goodbye, see you in Brazil, Lee Shin Hyuk. Then she and Director Junhik left the room, leaving Shin Hyuk sitting there alone. On the LED screen on top of the building, Chaewon's advertisement appeared. Shin Hyuk walked alone through the dark alley, not a soul in sight. He took out his phone to check it. On the screen was a message from Jun-wook, I love you so much, Lee Shin Hyuk. You're the treasure of our team. You know how I feel, right? Shin Hyuk ignores the message and sighs as he walks away. Suddenly, he senses something. He gradually slows down. A pair of feet in white shoes has been following him for some time. He comes to a stop. Those feet draw closer and closer to him. A cold glint flashes in his eyes. A hand reaches out, about to touch him. He turned his head and glanced back. With his quick reflexes, he swiftly dodged and circled underneath. He grabbed the other's arm and lifted him into the air. Shin Hyuk slammed him to the ground. He stood watching as the man lay sprawled on the ground, realizing that stranger was Lee Do-won. Groaning in pain, he lifted his head and complained, "Hey, you jerk, why are you using that move on a civilian?" Shin Hyuk replied coldly, "No ordinary person moves without making a sound, right?" Do-won scolded him, "Tisk, you robot." At a certain restaurant, the aroma from the hot dishes fills the air. On the TV screen, a famous song by the singer Chaewon is playing. Do-won is holding a spoon and looking across the table. Sitting opposite him is Shin Hyuk. As Do-won dips his spoon into the soup, he asks how Shin Hyuk is doing, saying, "Do you know how hard I worked to get you this position?" Shin Hyuk gratefully replies, "Thank you, it's all thanks to your help." He can't help teasing Shin Hyuk a bit, "By the way, you looked great on the airport cameras. If you keep this up, you might become even more famous than those celebrities." He invites Shin Hyuk, "What are you planning to do next week? How about going to the judo gym? It's been a long time since we sparred. Judging by your expression, it seems you haven't lost your touch." Shin Hyuk replies, "I'm planning to go to Rio." Hearing Rio, Do-won is immediately surprised and asks, "Rio, Brazil? Why are you going there?" He immediately replied, "I'm going to work as a bodyguard." Do-won, worried about him, asked, "Will you be okay, Brazil?" Shin Hyuk didn't answer right away, but took a bite of rice. While chewing, he confided, "I think I've become numb now. Looking back, you're right, those who are alive have to keep living." Do-won looked at him doubtfully and said, "If you can let go, then I'll be relieved." He reminded Shin Hyuk, "But be careful, the situation in South America is unstable. No matter where you go, don't show yourself." Shin Hyuk's eyes remained as indifferent as ever. He stayed silent, and Do-won continued, "Even if it's unclear, the agency will still keep an eye on you. That's the price you have to pay for being Vanta Black." In the hallway of a certain building, Shin Hyuk walks to his door and opens it. He enters the room looking dejected. He looks at a photograph. The girl in the photo is his younger sister Suman, looking beautiful and radiant as she practices with a microphone. He lowers his head. A gang symbol appears, Shika, the biggest criminal gang in the world. There's a strange glass of water on the table. They've created a new drug that can't be detected by modern technology. In the room is a row of desks with many employees working, maintaining close relationships with major countries. They control the global illegal drug market from the shadows. And, a mysterious person with many bloodstains behind him, an enigma considered the mastermind of Shika, Bluff. Shin Hyuk thinks of Chaewon, feeling there's a deep connection between him and this trip to South America. He looks at the clues on the wall, certain that this is the one who killed Suman. He remains cold, looking down. He's been waiting for this for a long time. He looks down at the phone glowing in the drawer. From the phone comes the sound of Portuguese, someone being hanged. A recording is playing on the phone, a horrifying coup. He points his gun at the phone in the drawer. If he becomes Yu Chaewon's bodyguard, he'll definitely get close to that bastard. On the wall are many clues related to Suman's death, starting with her photo, and even news articles about the case from back then. He tells himself, "Now, I can finally meet the one who killed Suman." Shin Hyuk stands before the wall covered in clues, gun in hand, thinking, "Bluff, I'll chase you to the ends of the earth and tear you apart." Currently in Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. A vibrant city, its lights glittering in the night. Many people kneel at the foot of the statue. This is a city blessed by God, but behind the statue are dark slums, lawless areas abandoned even by God. On a street in the slums, a few emaciated homeless people are slowly dying. Shin Hyuk walks up and stands in front of a child. He bends down and touches the boy's forehead, but the boy doesn't react at all. Then he lowers his hand. The boy is black. He stands there coldly looking at the boy, his fists clenched. A warning echoes, Lee Shin Hyuk has arrived in Brazil. Tonight, the atmosphere in the stadium is more vibrant than ever, and the lights brilliantly illuminate the entire space. It's easy to guess that this event is related to Yu Chaewon, who, with 12.8 million debut album sales, is the fastest rising artist on the X-Board digital chart. Fans fill every row of seats in the stadium, each holding either a light stick or a phone to record every memorable moment. The enthusiasm of the fans also helped Chaewon become the artist who stayed on the digital music charts the longest. She has won up to 5x Grammys. She also won the Best New Artist award, to the point where some fans became a bit overexcited and moved closer to the stage than allowed, forcing security to rush in, stop them, and signal for them to step back. Everyone recognizes her as a global superstar. After the show, Chaewon left the stadium. Outside, many fans were waiting just to catch a glimpse of her, and Chaewon waved to them for a while. After that, her bodyguards came to prevent fans from getting too close and escorted her safely into the car. The recent concert was part of her international tour, which, according to statistics, generated massive economic benefits, possibly up to billions of dollars. And as a result, every corner of the world is eager to invite her to their country. The fame of a star always comes with some overzealous fans, but thanks to her bodyguards, especially Shin-hyuk, Chae-won remains safe in her car. The car sped off to the next stop, which appeared to be a luxurious building. Chae-won walks inside, with Shin-hyuk following closely behind. Chae-won clicks her tongue and says sarcastically, still wearing her stage outfit to attend the next event. Then she suddenly stops, noticing the bodyguard who has been walking beside her. Chae-won turns to smile at Shin-hyuk and asks, "Mr. Lee Shin-hyuk, is this your first time working as a bodyguard abroad?" He replies in a cold tone, "It's the first time I've escorted an artist overseas." Hearing that, Chae-won waves her hand and says, "Then just relax and follow my lead. I know South America like the back of my hand, got it?" Then she turns around and confidently continues walking, while Shin-hyuk's face remains expressionless. She opens the door in front of her and steps inside, mentally preparing herself to attend the social gathering as planned. Inside the banquet hall, elegantly dressed ladies and gentlemen are raising their glasses, mingling, and discussing matters with one another. A man notices her arrival, exclaims in delight and greets her with a big smile, "Ms. Chae-won, I can't believe I get to meet a global star in person." This man holds a high position. He is a Brazilian federal senator. Another man who was conversing with him also turns, squints his eyes in a smile, and politely says, "It truly is an honor." This man is Argentina's diplomat to Brazil. Noticing the excitement, yet another man approaches, grinning and says, "May I take a photo with you? My niece is your biggest fan." For the sake of socializing, Chae-won happily chats with these men, while Shin-hyuk stands aside, watching over her. A greeting from afar is directed at Chae-won, catching his attention. "Bem-vindo, hello there." A man with a beard approaches Chae-won's group and says, "Chae-won, it's truly an honor to meet you." She replies politely, "Yes, I'm very pleased to meet you too." Then he suddenly moved closer, leaning into Chae-won's ear, making her momentarily flustered. With a sly look, he whispered to Chae-won, "Ms. Chae-won, I'd really like to meet you privately. I'm Bluff." He spoke very quietly, but Shin-hyuk still heard him. Those words made it impossible for him to maintain his cold expression. Shin-hyuk's eyes were filled with hatred and anger. His negative emotions grew stronger and stronger as he looked at Bluff's irritating face, but he also realized something. So Chae-won was the key all along. But everything was too easy. To Shin-hyuk, the surroundings seemed to darken and all sounds gradually faded into a blur. He watched Bluff talking to Chae-won, his thoughts continuing, "I don't need to care about anything else." The veins on Shin-hyuk's face bulged, showing how hard he was trying to suppress his hatred. He thought, as long as... A sudden explosion shattered the quiet around Shin-hyuk, and a bullet tore through the head of the man named Bluff. Next, a barrage of bullets rained down on the partygoers, and everyone scrambled, clutching their heads and trying to flee. A masked man holding a gun burst into the banquet hall, firing continuously. He shouted loudly, "Get down, all of you. Don't move." The Brazilian federal senator raised both hands in a surrender gesture, sweat pouring down his face. In a state of anxiety, he complained, "What the hell are my bodyguards doing? Can't this damned country be peaceful for even one day?" Beside him, Bluff lay on the ground, dead with his eyes wide open. A pool of bright red blood had formed around his head, spreading across the floor. Just a few seconds ago, Shin-hyuk's face was filled with hostility, but now it was only left with speechless astonishment. Finally, the gunfire around him snapped Shin-hyuk back to reality. Shin-hyuk now noticed the client, Chae-won, trembling on the ground, clutching her head in fear, while the terrorists continued to shoot at anyone who dared to defy them. Realizing the situation, he quickly sprang into action. Shin-hyuk ran towards Chae-won and changed his grip on the umbrella. Shin-hyuk stood right behind her, extended the umbrella in front of them, and opened it, shielding Chae-won from the flying bullets. He leaned in close to her ear and reassured her, "Please don't panic and follow me. I'll get you to safety." He quietly observed the strangers, who seemed to pay little attention to their side, and concluded in his mind, "The rebels have already blocked all the escape routes by car." Shin-hyuk had no choice but to speak into his earpiece, "Emergency situation, prepare the backup vehicle, be ready to evacuate." The rebels finally noticed Chae-won sitting on the ground. They approached her and said, "You, come with us." Their menacing tone startled Chae-won. Shin-hyuk pressed a button on the umbrella. He readied himself, wielding the umbrella, and charged out to stand between Chae-won and the rebels. The bald rebel scowled, "Who are you, you bastard?" Shin-hyuk charged straight at the bald guy, catching him off guard. Of course, he seized that opportunity. Shin Hyuk used his momentum to wield the umbrella like a close-range weapon, striking the bald man so hard he collapsed to the floor, unable to hold on to his gun from the pain. Meanwhile, Shin Hyuk rushed past him, targeting another man who was aiming at him from behind. But before the man could react, with a series of swift movements, Shin Hyuk closed the distance. Shin Hyuk grabbed the barrel of the gun with his bare hands. Then he yanked hard, disarming the rebel and throwing the gun far away. His body trembled slightly. Shin Hyuk slipped behind and immediately knocked the guy out with his elbow. Chaewon sat on the ground in shock, wondering, who is this person? How can he stay so calm even in a situation like this? She fearfully leaned closer to him and asked softly, Shin Hyuk, are you okay? Shin Hyuk, still cold and composed, reminded her, it's not safe here, we have to leave now. The two of them quickly headed for the door, leaving the chaos behind. Suddenly, a strange sound came from the room, making them both hesitate. Shin Hyuk cautiously turned to look behind. He saw Bloff being carried away unconscious by two masked people. Shin Hyuk frowned in silent judgment. Was this terrorist attack targeting Bloff? He turned away, suspicion creeping into his mind. It was all too easy, and far too sudden. In the end, the two of them managed to leave the building unharmed. The driver asked in shock, what kind of emergency was that? Chaewon was still shaken, muttering in a daze, at that moment, just like now. Why do these things always happen to me? Someone reached out and put a hand on her shoulder. Shin Hyuk comforted her softly, everything will be fine. Just stay calm and follow the instructions I gave you earlier. Chaewon's eyes widened in surprise. At this moment, Shin Hyuk was distracted by the strange sound and looked around cautiously. Shin Hyuk kept looking toward the brightly lit building. Suddenly, the car door next to him made a strange noise. Inside, Chaewon asked anxiously, hey, Shin Hyuk, aren't you coming with us? He turned back and clearly stated his plan, I'll act alone. Driver, quickly change the emergency evacuation location to the temporary residential area, go to the place with the highest security. The driver gritted his teeth, looked back, and asked, who the hell are those guys? But Shin Hyuk revealed nothing. He just carefully reminded him, she's safe for now, but it's only temporary. Get to the safest place as quickly as possible as instructed. I'll follow behind. The driver sighed and finally decided to follow his orders. Damn it. All right. Our lives depend on your driving skills. After saying that, he started the car. The other person sighed again, hey, stop putting pressure on me. The car shot down the road at breakneck speed. Turns out, there was a team of motorcycles in hot pursuit behind them. The motorcyclist ignored the terrain, recklessly speeding ahead. That was none other than the one who just helped Bloff. He somehow pulled out a gun from who knows where. The group of 5 or 6 riders opened fire at the car in front on command. The driver clicked his tongue in annoyance, TCH, it's those maniacs again. Suddenly, his walkie-talkie crackled to life, driver, do you copy? This is Lee Shin Hyuk. From now on, just listen to me. The driver introduced himself to make things easier. I'm Won Mubak from Team B. Quickly, tell me what I need to do. But in response to his enthusiasm was that same cold, monotonous voice, just be quiet. Mubak could only fall silent and mutter a soft, okay. Shin Hyuk continued, right now, there are 5 motorcycles tailing us, and they're all armed. Mubak glanced in the rearview mirror, guessing as much. He muttered under his breath. Damn it, where did these guys come from? Shin Hyuk gave him detailed instructions, I'll count to 3. When I do, hit the brakes. I'll handle the rest. At the same time, someone else on a motorcycle was also tailing the 5 others. That person was none other than Shin Hyuk. When Mubak heard this, he panicked a bit, what? Are you crazy? Even while driving, he shouted anxiously, if we slam on the brakes, the car will skid. Do you have a death wish or something? Chaewon, sitting in the backseat, overheard and could guess part of the plan. Hit the brakes? Does he want us to stop? Shin Hyuk in the back remained adamant. He started counting, 1. It seems the leader of that gang has noticed your presence. He jerked around in shock as the second gunshot rang out. The masked man immediately turned his gun backward and fired wildly. Shin Hyuk, still unscathed on his motorcycle, continued to direct the other 2. 3. Hurry. At that moment, Mubak also realized Shin Hyuk was behind them. He shouted in panic, where did that lunatic come from? Mubak hurriedly slammed on the brakes. The car spun sharply on the ground from the momentum, causing Chaewon in the backseat to be thrown forward. The car in front came to a sudden stop, forcing the pursuers to slam on their brakes as well. But it was too late, the bike kept going due to inertia, and as a result, one of them fell face first, hitting his head on the car door. Inside, Mubak watched the red blood spreading and shuddered for a moment. Behind, Shin Hyuk suddenly twisted the throttle hard. The motorcycle roared and sped off, trying to escape from the rest of the group. Seeing this, the others hurriedly chased after him, paying no attention to their unfortunate teammate lying motionless over there. Noticing that they had fallen into his trap, Shin-hyuk felt a brief surge of joy. He leaned his bike, making spectacular turns. The group rushed after him, only to end up getting shot in the back, one by one. Mubak sat in the car witnessing everything, stammering in fear, is he even human? After completing his mission, Shin-hyuk drove over to the nearby car. He calmly announced, the terrorist threat has been neutralized. Get the client to safety. With that, Shin-hyuk waved his hand, urging, hurry up. Mubak stammered as he accepted the order, okay, while Chaewon turned back, still unable to believe her eyes. Those 5 men had been taken down single-handedly by Shin-hyuk, now lying sprawled all over the road. At that moment, he finally took off his helmet. Even so, Shin-hyuk had exerted himself greatly, and now all he could do was gasp for breath, waiting for his body to recover. Then he grabbed his gun and approached the bodies of the terrorists. Shin-hyuk slowly aimed his gun at each of them, the cold sound ending their lives. The tree branches swayed gently in the wind amidst the killing. In the end, only the masked man remained, staring up in shock. At that moment, Shin-hyuk was like a god of death, bringing a terrifying nightmare of death. He stared at him with cold, emotionless eyes. After everything was over, Shin-hyuk began searching the bodies for clues. He pulled down one man's lower lip and immediately found some strange characters. But Shin-hyuk immediately guessed it was Bloff, the symbol of Shika. He coldly turned to ask a dazed man sitting there, Bloff, where is he? Turns out, the masked guy was still alive and well. Shin-hyuk immediately shoved a gun into his mouth to threaten him. He growled seriously, I'll ask one more time. Where is Bloff? The masked man still acted cocky, not knowing his place. He sneered, in your mother's bedroom. Shin-hyuk thought to himself, I can't let this guy die. But he shoved the gun further down the man's throat, because the guy was biting his tongue instead of answering. He frowned and thought for a while. The cold night wind blew away the thick scent of blood on the ground, and gunshots rang out once again. That man collapsed motionless onto the ground. Shin-hyuk had already guessed it was because he was still alive. The dark room was gradually illuminated by the warm morning sunlight. Shin-hyuk sat on the bed, intently piecing everything together. Recalling the scene where the bullet pierced through that man's head, he was certain that the man at the ball had been confirmed dead. Therefore, he deduced that the man was someone disguised as Bloff. That's why the recent surprise attack was probably staged to whitewash their gang. A warning from Shika to the world. At this point, Shin-hyuk paused for a moment. He remembered that gang, the Shika terrorist group. Maybe at the ball, and even after, they would still try to kidnap Yu Chaewon. Even that imposter knew about Yu Chaewon's existence. He was certain she was one of their targets. Shin-hyuk thought about an international crime organization. He recalled Chaewon's beautiful figure, quietly wondering, why would they need her, Yu Chaewon? At this moment, she anxiously knocks on the door. Shin-hyuk appears immediately, opens the door and asks, is something wrong, Miss Yu Chaewon? She happily raises 2 cans of beer, enthusiastically suggesting, we just escaped death, didn't we? Do you want to have a drink? Shin-hyuk coldly reminds her, I think you'd better stay in your room and rest, considering how panicked you were earlier. Hearing this, Chaewon looks a bit embarrassed. Then she suddenly blurts out teasingly, wow, so cold, Mr. Iceman. After going through an unbelievable accident, something no one could have predicted, how are you still so calm? Shin-hyuk looks at her flushed, drunken face and is at a loss for words. Chaewon persists, just have a beer with this K-pop star, come on. Consider it a thank you for saving my life. Do you think chances like this come around often? She reaches into her bag for more beer. Then Chaewon gulped it down like it was just water. She wiped her mouth refreshingly. Chaewon wondered curiously, Lee Shin-hyuk, why are you always so unnecessarily rigid? Meanwhile, Shin-hyuk had remained absolutely silent the whole time. Chaewon sat on the chair, a bit unsteady so her body swayed a little, then she suddenly spoke up, thank you for saving me today, I really mean it. Honestly, I'm quite intrigued that you don't treat me like an artist. I still don't get why you draw such clear boundaries. Does this make sense? If anyone else found out, I doubt they'd believe it. At that moment, Shin-hyuk suddenly replied to her, speaking sincerely, you remind me of someone. Chaewon was a bit taken aback, really? Does that person look a lot like me? Shin-hyuk quickly answered, you know her too, Yu Chaewon. She picked up her phone, mumbling sleepily, someone I know. She muttered, searching her memory, who could it be? Let me think, wait, this. Suddenly, Chaewon changed the subject. Rubbing her face, she whispered, I think I drank too fast. Then, she collapsed onto the table, completely out of it, and her loosened grip let the phone fall freely. But Shin-hyuk quickly caught it in time. Looking at Chaewon sleeping drunkenly, He gently placed her phone back on the table. Shin-hyuk stood there, deep in thought. A distant memory flashed through his mind. Back then, Suman was just as carefree, holding a can of beer and swaying. "Ah, so this is what beer tastes like. It's so good." Shin-hyuk silently reminisces. He looks at the girl slumped over the table and thinks to himself, Yu Chaewon is the target of today's attack, no, the target of bluff. No matter what the reason is, it doesn't matter. The image of the crazed fan from before flashes through Shin-hyuk's mind. He silently makes up his mind, just as he planned from the start, ever since he decided to get involved in this case. Or when he worked as a bodyguard for that famous artist. Then, when he dealt with the obsessive fan, he told himself he would continue on. Use her as bait, Chaewon. The phone on the table suddenly started to vibrate. Someone reached out to shake Chaewon's shoulder and reminded her sternly, "Ms. Yu Chaewon, someone is calling you." Half asleep, she replied instinctively, don't wake me up." Suddenly, her eyes snapped open. Chaewon jolted and screamed in surprise at Shin-hyuk's bewildered face. By now, it was already morning. Chaewon rubbed her head in embarrassment, obediently picked up the phone. "All right." She glanced at the caller, secretly astonished. It was the director. Chaewon grimaced and sighed deeply. "Oh God, I totally forgot earlier." She put the phone back on the table, momentarily spaced out. A moment later, when the person on the other end realized she had picked up, they hurriedly called out, "Yusta." Kim Cholman, CEO of C-Tree Entertainment, kept urgently asking, "Are you still okay?" On the other end, Chaewon yelled loudly into the phone, "See, this is why I said I didn't want to go to Brazil. Just give up everything and send the private jet here before I break the contract." Cholman tried to calm her down. "Come on, relax. I understand, Chaewon. I know and I understand everything. Maybe that place really isn't a good fit for you." He paused briefly and continued, "But this deal involves an enormous amount of money." When Chaewon heard that, she became extremely annoyed. She replied indignantly, "What are you saying? This is a disaster, don't you get it? Cancel all the remaining schedules right now." Cholman looked awkward, but this also involves diplomatic issues. Hearing that, she mockingly dragged out her words, "Diplomatic issues, really?" Chaewon angrily asked directly, "If I die, does any of that even matter?" Then she turned to Shin-hyuk for advice. "Shin-hyuk, what do you think? If the company doesn't let us leave, can we sue them?" Cholman couldn't help but tremble and stammer when he heard this. Shin-hyuk bent down and spoke seriously into the phone. "Director, this is Lee Shin-hyuk, bodyguard of the defenders. Staying in Brazil will make it even more dangerous. The terrorist's target seems to be Yu Chaewon again. If that happens, it will truly become a national issue." Chaewon was waiting for this. She asked, "Did you hear that, Director Kim? Even Shin-hyuk says so." However, Cholman still wanted to evade responsibility, but this matter. Chaewon immediately made up her mind, "That's enough. Either way, we'll return to Korea tomorrow morning. Do you understand?" She frowned, signaling the end of the conversation. "Let's stop talking." At that moment, Shin-hyuk was lost in his own thoughts. The Shika gang's base is in Brazil, but their influence spreads all over the world. He frowned in concern. Once you've become their target, you can never escape. Outside, a camera was silently watching everything. Chaewon was still angrily talking on the phone. He thought to himself, no matter where the target goes, they'll find them. After unsuccessful negotiations, Cholman finally put down the phone. He stammered, seemingly nervous. That powerful CEO is now bowing his head in submission. "We can't keep Chaewon in South America anymore, because Deputy Minister Park Jong-soo is right across from him." Jong-soo speaks coldly, "Director Kim, hey, Kim Cheolin, you useless fool, do you want this entertainment company to be shut down right now?" He hurriedly apologized. "I'm sorry, Mr. Park Jong-soo." That deputy minister angrily scratched his head. "Damn it, how am I supposed to report this mess to my superiors?" At that moment, at a certain detention center, a weary guard paces back and forth after a long day struggling with fierce inmates behind bars. Two other prisoners were competing, and the sound of "Hey da" echoed every now and then. The dark-skinned man threw a powerful punch, but the other man quickly blocked it with his forearm. The other man glared menacingly. Then he charged forward like a runaway horse, slamming into his opponent and shouting, "Die." The other prisoners eagerly watched the brutal violence unfold, cheering enthusiastically. "Good, make the most of the time torturing him, tear him apart and rip him to pieces until he's dead." The cheers echoed as the white man pinned his opponent to the floor, relentlessly landing powerful punches. Savage laughter filled the air. "Look at that bastard bleeding." Behind the excited crowd, one person calmly turned and walked away. The person silently left the noisy crowd. He tiptoes quietly across the ground. He stops before two rows of prison cells. Behind the iron bars next to him, strange sounds echo out. It turns out, someone is carefully carving a statue of the saint with a small knife. This person is completely focused, paying no attention to what's happening around, the sound of the knife steadily slicing the wood. The person outside the bars softly calls in, "Father." The hand carving the statue comes to a stop. The person inside the bars turns to look outside. He placed the newly finished statue among the completed ones, lowered his voice and ordered, "Speak." The person outside knelt down and reported, "Yes, as you ordered, Father, I have dealt with the one who dared to impersonate you." Upon hearing this, he suddenly spoke coldly, "Say that again." The other person immediately panicked, "Yes, I'm sorry. Singer Yu Chaewon, I wasn't able to catch her." The man behind the bars glared coldly and asked, "You failed." The other trembled and quickly reported, "The pursuit team has already been sent. I will definitely catch her within the next 12 hours. Hearing this, he stood up and decisively crushed the other's hope. She just returned to Korea. From now on, her case will be handled by other branches. The person outside appeared terrified. "What? Please reconsider, Father." He knelt down, pleading, "As I said before, any direct connection to Korea will easily." Before he could finish speaking, the other person coldly interrupted, "You've worked hard." The man looked up in confusion. "What?" The person behind the bars replied, "Thank you for your dedication," and at the same time suddenly attacked the man's face with the knife he'd just used to carve the wooden statue. The man trembled and pleaded, "One last time, please." The hand gripping the knife, as hard as stone, finally loosened and lowered. He shoved the man away. The man immediately lost consciousness and collapsed helplessly to the ground. Suddenly, the cell door swung open. Steady footsteps moved forward outside. The person behind bars earlier asked coldly, "You heard that, didn't you?" He turned his head and called to the cell opposite, "For the next 2 weeks, bring Yu Chaewon here." That cell remained silent with no reply. Light gradually shone into a room that seemed out of place here. A person in a kimono, face covered in scars, sat inside. 2 rows of people below bowed their heads respectfully and shouted in unison, "Please entrust it to me, Father." The scar-faced man glared intensely at a single spot. That's a photo lying on the floor. In the photo are Chaewon and Shinhyuk, with him seemingly staring straight at the camera. The scar-faced guy then boldly shouts, "Leave it to me, Father." 1 week later, at the filming location of a reality show in Korea, the cameraman asks Chaewon, "Chaewon, how does it feel to taste street food again after a long international tour? Please share your honest thoughts with us." She tastes the grilled squid, savoring its flavor. Wow, this is it. The taste I've been longing for." Chaewon comfortably shares her thoughts about it. "The flavor is so good, it's so delicious that I understand why the company makes us eat this after touring abroad. It's exactly to my taste." This leaves him confused. Yes, what? Suddenly, the director calls out, cut. "All right, let's take a break." "Oh my god." Then, Junhik came over to encourage her, saying, "Our Chaewon must be really uncomfortable filming in this heat, right? Have some water and recharge." But Chaewon didn't care. How much more do you want me to work before I get a break? I'm fine. Worry about the director and the other staff instead." He was heartbroken by her cold response. Chaewon." Suddenly, she turned to look at the bodyguard. As if spotting a familiar figure in the crowd brought her joy. Chaewon's eyes lit up as if she found happiness in her work. But when he turned to look, it wasn't the face she was hoping for. This made her blush with embarrassment, lost for words. Right after that, Chaewon looks at her phone screen to check the time. It's already 2:22 p.m. She texts, "Shinhyuk, did you get home safely? Did you get my schedule? Even though something happened, I still have to keep filming." She hesitates before sending another message, "Shinhyuk, have you gone back to work yet?" Chaewon keeps worrying. Her mood makes the filming crew concerned. "Wow, Chaewon looks really down today," someone says. Another quickly warns, "Shush, be quiet, she's been through a lot. Say the wrong thing and you could get kicked off the set." Suddenly, a catering truck arrives. A big man wearing an apron appears. A staff member came up and said to him, "Excuse me, sir, you can't go this way. We've been authorized by the government to film here." But he refused to cooperate with the crew, saying, "Film what? You people are taking over public roads and acting like you're in the right. Kids these days." The staff didn't expect that. "What did you say, sir?" The director tried to calm things down. "Come on, please, sir. We're sorry for the inconvenience." The man finally went silent and left. Down the dark road under the parking garage. He gently pushed his cart forward. He approached the group of young men and women he'd arranged to meet. He handed over everything they needed. One of them volunteered to open the box. Inside, it turned out to be several banned cold weapons. Turns out, they're a gang specializing in assassination and kidnapping, the eastern branch of the Shika Night Mist organization. Their previous mission was to eliminate a VIP in Myanmar. A girl spoke up, saying it's been years since we last gathered like this, and now we've been demoted to kidnapping a female idol? That's really a step backward. The one with the ponytail suddenly remembered, Captain, that woman's car is here, right? The captain seemed to know what he was planning and tried to stop him. Wait. The captain raised his hand, signaling the group to stay silent. The bald guy immediately realized it and announced, "We're being watched, 80 paces behind us." The girl looked surprised and asked, "Huh, we're being followed?" All the members realized, is it the bodyguard in the photo? How did he find us? The bald guy updated the situation, 50 steps, he's moving very fast. They gradually became more cautious, and the captain quietly reminded the group. Everything was enveloped in silence. The captain said, "We have to get rid of that tail first. Split up in 4 directions and surround him." They nodded in understanding. The sensitive bald guy reported again, 30 steps. They were ready for close-range assault, each holding their weapon firmly, moving out in all directions. The one with a ponytail hid behind a pillar. The girl chose a spot on the ceiling, watching from above. The bald man stood near the edge for better reconnaissance. He quickly signaled to everyone, 15 steps. A figure slowly walked in. The bald man smirked to himself, "Once he steps into our trap, we'll make him disappear in an instant. With blades so deadly they can kill with just a light touch, he'll die before he even realizes it." But without anyone noticing, Shin-hyuk was already silently standing behind the bald man. This guy realized it too late. That's why he was immediately suppressed by Shin-hyuk and stood still. Shin-hyuk threatened, "If you make a sound, you'll die." He was inwardly shocked, what's happening? As soon as he regained his composure, he tried to pull out his axe to fight back. But Shin-hyuk quickly finished him off with a knife to the back of the neck. Finally, one of them was defeated by Shin-hyuk. The guy with the ponytail saw this and tried to take the opportunity to attack while Shin-hyuk was distracted. He gathered his strength, rushed forward, and shouted loudly, "Die." He didn't expect that Shin-hyuk had used the previous guy's body to block the attack. A strange light flickered in his deep eyes. Ponytail couldn't believe how fast this guy's reflexes were. He saw Baldy fall to the ground, trying to justify himself. "Our team split up, so that's why there's a gap. I need to retreat and regroup with the others. When it comes to speed, I'm confident." With that thought, Ponytail quickly jerked back and jumped away. But even that was nothing compared to Shin-hyuk, whose mysterious innate power made him unbeatable. He dashed forward, quickly catching up. In an instant, Shin-hyuk closed the distance. Ponytail was terrified, even from this far away? Are we all going to die? With just a split second, Shin-hyuk sliced his throat. He screamed in agony. The captain moved forward to launch a sneak attack, thinking to himself, that guy isn't just an ordinary bodyguard. He discovered our position and foiled our ambush. But this mission must be accomplished at all costs. He didn't hesitate to charge in. That's the meaning behind the name, Night Mist. The captain aimed straight for Shin-hyuk's weak spot, ready to stab him. But suddenly, Shin-hyuk's figure shifted in midair. With extraordinary reflexes, he easily dodged the attack. And at the same time, he managed to snatch the enemy's weapon and skillfully struck back, stabbing him repeatedly. Getting stabbed in his weak spot caused the captain to quickly weaken. He couldn't believe it. Could Night Mist really be defeated this easily? Shin-hyuk coldly commented that the basic technique when ambushing someone is to hide your shadow from your opponent. That's why when he was stabbed in the back by the captain, or ambushed by the ponytail, he was able to observe all of their shadows. That's how Shin-hyuk could easily counterattack. The battered captain collapsed to his knees, blood slowly seeping from his body. Shin-hyuk glanced up at the ceiling. It seemed he had figured something out. But he calmly walked past that spot. The girl hiding there had changed her position, now cowering behind a pillar in fear. Damn it, where did this monster come from? I need to retreat and report to Mr. Higashi. With that thought, she quickly turned around, trying to escape. However, things didn't go as she hoped. Suddenly, her whole body froze. She was stunned when she saw the person standing in front of her. Shin-hyuk had somehow managed to block her way. He said, "I'll give you 2 choices." Shin-hyuk continued calmly, 1. Tell me who ordered you and I'll spare your life. 2. Go down there and join your comrades. The girl stayed on guard, gripping her hidden weapon tightly. Even so, she chose to commit suicide by poison. Are you kidding me? Do you think I'll do as you want? She collapsed. Strange veins suddenly appeared on her face. She mumbled, "For the glory of Shika." Shin-hyuk realized, she swallowed poison? How foolish. He pulled down her lower lip and immediately saw the Shika tattoo. Shin-hyuk said coldly, "Suicide. Just as I thought, Shika has come to Korea." Meanwhile, in the parking lot, Jin-hyuk tried to comfort Chaewon. "Ha, you did well, Chaewon. You must be tired after touring abroad and then filming, right?" She stayed silent and said nothing. He tried to encourage her. All right, I'll let you rest then. The car door slowly closed. Chaewon immediately took out her phone to check her messages. But her screen was completely black. Chaewon was disappointed. Seriously, this is so annoying. I'm so tired, I'm going to go crazy. Suddenly, someone opened the door. She froze, surprised, and looked outside. It turned out to be Shin-hyuk. Chaewon happily called his name. She anxiously asked why he was only showing up now after being away. Shin-hyuk calmly replied, I was on a mission. Hearing this, Chaewon got upset. What? What kind of mission kept you away for over a week? But he said, Ms. Yu Chaewon, if you want to stay alive, listen to what I have to say. When Chaewon heard Shin-hyuk say that, she was momentarily stunned. She knocked the stack of papers he was holding out of his hand. Chaewon snapped in frustration. What? If I want to survive, I have to listen to you? Do I look that gullible to you? Shin-hyuk stayed silent because of her stubbornness. A few photos slipped out from the stack of papers. Chaewon only noticed now. She widened her eyes, staring intently at the pictures. Chaewon hurriedly picked them up in shock. Even she was startled when she saw the photos up close. They were pictures of a corpse. She was so shaken she stammered, what the hell is this? Strange veins appeared on the faces of those corpses, just like the symptoms of the girl who previously overdosed. One of them lay with his eyes rolled back in the middle of a pool of blood. Shin-hyuk stayed silent, letting Chaewon gradually take in the current situation. He explained that, over the past week since we returned to Korea, these people have tried to approach Yu Chaewon, and of course, he discovered them early on. Chaewon didn't want to believe it. Why? What the hell is going on? Who are these people? Shin-hyuk paused for a moment to give Chaewon time to regain her composure. He slowly revealed the truth. They are members of Shika, whose base was supposed to be in South America. This organization is an extremely radical international crime syndicate. The group of bikers who attacked their car the other day were also part of it. Chaewon instinctively pulled out her phone, anxiously tapping the screen as she said, we need to call the police. But Shin-hyuk immediately took her phone away to stop her. He advised, Ms. Yu Chaewon, please calm down. Their influence probably isn't limited to just the Korean police. They might also have connections and influence among government officials. Chaewon, who only knew the entertainment industry, was shocked to hear such things. No way, I don't believe it. Shin-hyuk, who are you, really? He clarified, Shika, my goal is to catch them. I became a bodyguard to lure them out. Chaewon hadn't expected this at all. She exclaimed in surprise, what? Shin-hyuk said quietly, I joined the bodyguard company that signed a contract with you, and staged the arrest of that stalker to attract her attention, so when Chaewon eagerly asked him to protect her, Shin-hyuk didn't seem all that surprised. Chaewon realized, so, from the start you were using me, weren't you? Shin-hyuk remained cold, this is an arrangement, I'll use you to find them, and you'll use me to stay alive. She pondered for a moment, you're comfortable using me as bait like this, and now you want me to trust you? To keep things smooth, Shin-hyuk patiently explained to Chaewon, you misunderstood, right now you have no other choice, even if you run, they'll chase you to the ends of the earth. But Chaewon replied coldly, I'm Yu Chaewon, you know. It wasn't easy for me to get to where I am now. Shin-hyuk tried to explain further, this isn't something that can be solved just by, but Chaewon cut him off, get out of the car, Shin-hyuk. She looked at him coldly and made the final decision, Shin-hyuk, you're fired. Hearing that, Shin-hyuk just stayed silent and didn't respond. At the charity concert for children with disabilities, someone was skillfully moving to the music. It turned out to be Chaewon. She was preparing for the upcoming project. She was rehearsing the stage performance with other dancers, in a room fully equipped with modern devices for the upcoming concert night. Finally, after practicing for a while, she stopped and drank some water to recover her energy. Chaewon asked the manager where the other staff were, and he said they all went to eat. He told her that her belongings had been taken to a private room. She was surprised and asked, huh? I don't mind eating together. But then she said it was fine. Suddenly, Jin-hyuk told her, Chaewon, let's talk for a bit. She was suspicious, what is it? Can't you see I'm rehearsing the show? He hurriedly explained, flustered, that's not it. But first, he glanced at the serious-looking group from Pavis, a domestic armed security company. Jin-hyuk curiously asked her, by the way, who are these people? Chaewon calmly replied, is there a problem? I should be asking you that. Why is the company so busy that they left me to handle everything alone like this? Jin-hyuk tried to explain, no, Chaewon, that's not it. She still kept her temper. When she saw everyone had gathered, she signaled, let's pick up where we left off. The others obediently replied, yes, ma'am. Chaewon thought, that's right. Whether what Shin-hyuk said is true or not, this isn't something just one or two bodyguards can handle. Soon after that, more and more people hurriedly rushed over. They were all tall and muscular men. A strict manager stopped them. Stop. Who are you? You can't enter without permission. Suddenly, he was taught a lesson in manners by the giant. That guy smashed his head with an axe. That was Bankar from the Shika branch in East Asia, Mongolian alliance. He mocked and cursed, damn it. The sound of the blow reached Chaewon's place. She suddenly saw a group of aggressive people approaching. Seeing this, the bodyguards immediately became alert and activated protection mode for Yu Chaewon. But the other side had too many people and completely overwhelmed them. One bodyguard stepped forward and asked bluntly, "Who are you? What do you think you're doing?" Ignoring them, a blonde guy in the group easily charged forward. He stabbed the guard with a fatal blow. Chaewon stood frozen, witnessing the screams of pain and the bloody scene. Her body was paralyzed, not knowing what to do, fear spreading to every cell. One by one, all the bodyguards fell. Chaewon stared blankly at the devastating scene. She remembered Shin-hyuk, who once told her that even if she tried to run, they would chase her to the ends of the earth. Just as Shin-hyuk said, those people had the upper hand, completely overpowering her bodyguards. The rest began a hunt she couldn't resist. Fortunately, one of her bodyguards stepped up to stop him. He threw a punch, easily knocking him away. Then the bodyguard rushed forward, driving his fist into the man's stomach and pushing him back. After a while, he stood up, regaining his balance. The bodyguard carefully observes the surroundings, silently cursing, "These bastards." Over there, the fierce clash between the terrorists and the bodyguards continues, and he can't help but marvel. They dare to act so brazenly in broad daylight. Right then, one of them boldly slashes at the bodyguard in front of him without any hesitation. Seeing the chaos around, he can only think to himself, "These terrorists." Suddenly, another one rushes in trying to ambush the bodyguard from behind, but he immediately notices. He raises his weapon to block the attack, connects the radio and reports, "Emergency, emergency, clear an escape route for the client." Once done, he immediately returns to the fight, ready to deal with the attacker. The bodyguard ducks and rams hard into the enemy, catching him completely off guard. Suddenly, the bodyguard froze for a moment, momentarily stunned. He noticed that the communication line to his teammate's radio was severed, and the body of the other person was bleeding, dripping onto the floor. Yama, a subordinate of Bankar, grabbed the severed head of the bodyguard and excitedly shouted, hey, a head is worth 2,000, right? The man with the scarred face, Ani, turned back and replied, not exactly. If it's more than 5 heads, it goes up to 2,500. The bald man, said, this time, each of us needs to get a Ferrari. The 3 of them planned to hunt down heads for the bounty. Watching the scene, the bodyguard gritted his teeth in anger, damn them. These bastards. He charged forward, swinging the weapon in his hand. But the bodyguard's weapon was sliced cleanly in half with just one strike. The bodyguard was stunned. His weapon. That guy charged at his opponent with a knife. This brat who still smells like baby powder is so boring. In just a few seconds, he had the blade at the bodyguard's throat. In an instant, the bodyguard collapsed. He sneered, idiot, if you can't even take my head, don't act tough. After that, looked toward Chaewon and mockingly shouted, hey, superstar. Chaewon couldn't hide her fear. Because of her, she had to pull herself together. She tried to protect everyone. Everyone, hide behind me, she said, while the other dancers, terrified, called out, sister. Suddenly, one of them grabbed her hand tightly. Yama sneered, got you now. Your skin is so soft. Chaewon immediately hit him in the face with the mic, you lunatic. He didn't mind the pain, licking the blood running down his forehead as he smiled savagely, so sweet, so delicious. She really didn't know what to do, exclaiming in surprise, what? Yama even talked to Bankar, hey, before we deliver the goods, shouldn't we check them first? After dealing with someone, he turned around and reminded, don't dirty her, and don't hurt her either. Pervert Yama approached, mumbling, no way, she's totally my type. Chaewon trembled in fear, silently pleading for help. Anyone, just anyone. She closed her eyes in despair, begging, please save me, please. Suddenly, Yama was slashed across the neck by someone in a bear costume. He died on the spot. That stunned both Bankar and They both stared in shock at the bear-suited figure gripping 2 knives. All the remaining thugs charged, shouting angrily, kill it. That bastard in the bear costume. Damn it. The bear man spun around, swinging his knife back to gain momentum. All of the others fell with just one move. The bear man easily took care of everyone in a short moment. He took off the blood-stained bear hat and softly called Yu Chaewon's name. Then he tossed the hat to the floor. The person revealed himself. It turned out Shin-hyuk had come to save her. Blood was still soaking the bear costume he had taken off. Chaewon asked, Shin-hyuk, how did you get here? He replied, now you recognize me, don't you? Shinhyuk wants you to know just how serious the situation is, and what kind of monsters you're up against. After witnessing that incident, Chaewon seemed to fully understand what was said in the car that day. That Yama guy lay motionless on the floor, he was dead. Bankar muttered fearfully, that bastard, he killed Yama and our brothers without even breaking a sweat. Ur gritted his teeth in anger, how dare he kill our youngest like that? I want to split his head in two right now. Shinhyuk heard every word they said. At that moment, Bankar suddenly charged forward, axe in hand. Let's finish him in one blow, Ur. Ur didn't care anymore and rushed in too. Forget the mission, deal with him first. Meanwhile, Shinhyuk was holding nothing but a single knife. His combat flexibility allowed him to single-handedly take down both leaders. Not long after, On Sang-chul appeared. He is the leader of Shika's Korean branch. He thought to himself, that guy is the one who defeated Night Mist, and now even Bankar. He seemed ready for the interesting scenario to come. Looks like I'll have to deal with him myself. One by one, many luxury cars arrived at the scene. Several men wielding long swords hurried forward, all sharing the same mission and belonging to the same gang. Their master, the most powerful person, was inside the car. That person stepped onto the street. East Asia area leader of XICA, the only easily recognized man with a large scar across his left eye, Higashi Kyokuro. His subordinates come to greet him, boss, you're here. He asks, where is On Sang-chul? The subordinate bows and reports, I'm sorry, the situation inside is taking longer to handle than I thought. Kyokuro says, nothing can be allowed to hinder father's plan. He calmly opens the door. Kyokuro approaches the opponent's room. Inside, On Sang-chul is mercilessly beaten and bruised, the area leader. He was badly injured, lying helplessly in Shinhyuk's arms and announced, we've failed. Shinhyuk didn't hesitate to brandish his blade and threaten Higashi Kyokuro. With a single slash, he severed Sang-chul's head from his body. The subordinate panicked, shouting in fear, On Sang-chul has been defeated. Everyone, get ready. Suddenly, Higashi Kyokuro signaled him to be quiet. He raised his hand and took off his overcoat. Then Kyokuro coldly tossed his coat to the ground. He pulled out a sword twice the length of his arm, preparing to fight. I'll handle this one. Kyokuro ordered his subordinates, you take care of all these bodies that are in the way here, and they obeyed, yes, young Master Higashi. Shinhyuk looked at him and could immediately sense that this guy was no ordinary person. Then he told Yu Chaewon, quick, get backstage, and she hesitated, but, he replied, it won't be long. She understood him, fell silent, and said nothing. Kyokuro appraised Shinhyuk, you're not bad either. On Sang-chul is one of the most promising talents in Korea, but this is where it ends. He ordered his men, no one is allowed to go against father's wishes. Hearing that, Shinhyuk guessed to himself, father? Is he talking about bluff? Kyokuro gradually exudes a menacing killing intent. Consider dying here in honor. Shinhyuk is ready, gripping the knife tightly in his hand. He glances at the other's sword and compares it silently, his opponent's katana and his own knife. There's simply no comparison between them. There must be another way. That katana starts to move, and Shinhyuk realizes, he's coming. In an instant, Kyokuro slashes, cutting off several strands of his opponent's hair. Shinhyuk begins to feel that danger. Higashi Kyokuro, leader of the East Asia Division. An elite representing XICA in Korea, China, and Japan. Previously, there was a fierce civil war among the contestants. They competed for the title of chief of the East Asia faction, and only one person was able to end that battle. He came from the Japanese Yakuza, known as the Demon Serpent, a hidden monster whose fighting style was completely different from the others. Higashi Kyokuro, at this moment, was tearing through the air toward Shinhyuk. Shinhyuk narrowly dodged, just a few millimeters more and the sword would have pierced his neck. Shinhyuk stepped back warily. Suddenly, he sensed a strong gust of wind. The one creating it was Kyokuro, who was moving at an unbelievable speed. Shinhyuk tried to dodge those deadly attacks. Unexpectedly, someone as cautious as him was struck by one of those blades. He realized the danger was close, his opponent's swift moves and precise slashes were spot on. Only a few who have reached the pinnacle of swordsmanship could possess such skills. It felt like he had countless hands, leaving no weakness for his opponent to exploit. Getting close to him was nearly impossible. Shinhyuk retreated. If Shika had someone like him, and even possessed such abilities, closing the gap would be extremely difficult. Suddenly, he noticed an object nearby. That's an iron rod, he thought to himself, if he couldn't close the distance. Shinhyuk grabbed the iron rod, determined to destroy it if needed. Kyokuro remained as calm as ever. He charged forward, assessing his opponent. He seemed relaxed, but under my blade. The distance between them shrank until they were face to face. There'd be no escape. He quickly attacked. With superior skill, Kyokuro easily overwhelmed Shinhyuk. Suddenly, he unleashed the power of his katana. Shinhyuk accidentally saw that sword strike. Immediately after, he blocked it barehanded. Kyokuro was a bit surprised. It seemed that move made Shinhyuk trust his instincts even more. This made him furious. "You bastard, die!" He dashed forward with quick, agile steps. Sword and staff clashed rapidly. Then the two separated again, silently observing the result of the previous strike. Something truly unbelievable just happened. The katana blade fell out. Kyokuro couldn't believe his eyes. "My sword, impossible." Right after that, Shinhyuk closed in on him. Kyokuro was still secretly doubtful. Did he read my sword's movement? While his opponent was distracted, Shinhyuk took the chance to strike the finishing blow. He grabbed his opponent's collar tightly. He moved in closer and closer. Shinhyuk managed to reach his opponent's body, then lifted Kyokuro up and slammed him backward. He didn't see it coming. What? But in the end, he was still thrown hard backwards by Shinhyuk. He realized it was a judo move. After everything, Kyokuro collapsed on the floor, showing who the real winner was. The juniors were shocked and cried out, "Young Master Higashi!" They rushed forward, "Kill him now! Get young Master Higashi out of here!" They drew their weapons. Ignoring their own lives, they tried to take down Shinhyuk, but the murderous aura around him terrified them. His hostile eyes appeared after the fierce battle. For weaklings like them, one strike is more than enough. They all shared the same fate as their master, Higashi Kyokuro, lying sprawled on the ground. He had won. With the knife in his hand, he moved forward. He approached Kyokuro. Shinhyuk flipped his body over, revealing the bruised neck. He used his blood-stained hands to grab the coat on his body. Then, he yanked the coat off forcefully. Kyokuro's bare torso was exposed. Shinhyuk wiped blood all over his back. Gradually, bright red covered his entire back, with strange patterns appearing on it. Shinhyuk held the phone and thought to himself, is the password the tattoo on his back? What a disgusting guy. Suddenly, Chaewon's voice called out to him, "Shinhyuk." She moved closer to him. Suddenly, Chaewon raised her hand to cover her mouth in shock. At that moment, Shinhyuk also turned around, his face stained with fresh blood. Currently, the media is reporting the next news. Amidst widespread rumors about global K-pop star Yoo Chaewon, CEO Kim Chulman of her management company held a press conference to clarify her situation. Chulman is currently holding a press conference. He said, yes, due to her continuously packed schedule, both her physical and mental health have suffered. Our artist, Yoo Chaewon of C3 Entertainment, has decided to take a temporary break. This decision is understandable. We prioritize the health of our top artist. Chaewon turns off her phone. The car she's in is still moving. She quietly looks at the phone in her hand. Shinhyuk, who is driving, says, "The phone I gave you is only for emergencies." Chaewon replies, "How can they cover it up so easily? This is clearly a murder case. No matter how big that Shika organization is, this is still South Korea." He explained in a deep voice, "I already told you, their influence extends beyond the media. They've reached high-ranking officials and civil servants. That organization isn't something ordinary people can handle." Then he pulled the gear lever down. Shinhyuk added, "From now on, you should be wary of your own company as well." The car was stopped at a red light. Inside the car, Chaewon was looking at her phone. "I can't reach the dancers who were evacuated from the stage earlier. Yesterday, I was still able to contact them," he said coldly. "Most likely they've already been dealt with by Shika." She grew worried. "Dealt with?" Shinhyuk explained, "There's no way any witnesses who saw the scene would survive. They were probably forced or assassinated under the cover of an accident. If you can't reach them, then it's likely." Chaewon looked up into the empty space in front of her, unable to believe it. She remembers when everyone practiced dancing together, because of me, the people who debuted with me from the very beginning. Shinhyuk comforts her, saying we need more information, and now I might also be on their target list. He warns her that if she shows her face, hiding her will become impossible. Shinhyuk says seriously, "So from now on, we need to split up and act separately." Chaewon looks confused. "What?" He says, "We need someone trustworthy, an ally we can rely on, for you to stay with." The car drives away. It heads to a residential area near the outskirts. The car stops. Shinhyuk is about to get out of the car. "Wait here for a moment." Chaewon calls out, "Shinhyuk." He answers, "Yes, what's up?" She asks, "Why are you chasing after Shika?" Chaewon adds, "They're assassins who massacre people in broad daylight, just like in Brazil. Why are you going after such dangerous people?" Her hands tremble. "Even if you're protecting me like this." Her eyes show fear. "Will I still be able to trust you later, Shinhyuk? Can you really protect me?" Shinhyuk, embarrassed, "Well." Suddenly, someone knocked on the car. "Hey, Lee." Shinhyuk. Chaewon looked confused. What? Yoo-hoon and Hae-min walked up to his car. Your kid still parks terribly, huh? He bowed his head. Sorry for disturbing your rest. Yoo-hoon smiled. This kid, are you still the one I know? In a luxurious room. Jimmy broke the silence of the room. Amazing. Isn't this the first time the department head called us all in to meet like this? Mahmoud added, not just us, this time they even called in people from international agencies. Shasha replied, maybe this has something to do with the incident in East Asia. He sneered, our organization is about to face a major upheaval. Vladimir asked in confusion, something happened in East Asia? Does that mean each of us will get a share over there? Mahmoud said, maybe it's not just East Asia. Jimmy didn't understand what he was implying. Mahmoud continued, recently, there was also an incident in Rio. A fake impersonated the boss and caused a riot. He said, things like this have never happened in the organization before. To restore order and reorganize, it seems the boss wants to promote some new people. Shasha spoke up, to me, it doesn't matter what happens. But if father pays attention to any of the people here, that position will be mine, he declared. Shasha threatened, anyone who wants to die can try touching me. The door to the room opened. Everyone in the room stood up. They bowed their heads. Father, greetings to you. What a pity, the person who just entered spoke up. Jimmy looked up. Standing in front of Joe, Solomon smiled and said, I'm not the person you were hoping for, am I? The white-haired man is named Solomon, Bloff's closest ally. And the man with the scar is Joe, also one of Bloff's closest allies. Jimmy sat down. So it's you, what a relief. Shasha asked, your father's errand boy? Solomon smiled brightly, hey, relax, we're here to inform you of a few things before the party starts. He raised his voice, branch leaders, up to now, how much have you all sacrificed? To achieve the goal Shika wants, everyone has worked hard. But that's only until now, Solomon smiled. Shasha looked at him, confused. Solomon continues, well, something happened in Korea, the leader in East Asia, Mr. Higashi Kyokuro. Vladimir asks, what happened to Higashi? Solomon sighs, he's dead. Everyone is shocked. Jimmy speaks up, Higashi's in Eastern Europe, that's impossible. Solomon looks regretful, Mr. Kyokuro, he was a very respectable man, it truly is a shame, so I sincerely hope you all can do better, instead of getting killed like he was, my condolences. Vladimir, irritated, you bastard, how dare you insult Higashi, say one more word and all. Solomon snaps his fingers. He said calmly, quite infuriating, isn't it? Father is really upset right now. He's very upset because someone who reached this level could fail like this. He's disappointed, as it seems our flawless organization now has a stain, he said. Solomon smiled, that's why I want to propose a solution, to make sure this never happens again, so father won't have to be troubled anymore. The solution he proposed, when raising livestock only drains our resources, the answer is simply to kill. Mahmoud was confused. Livestock? Suddenly, he shouted, you dare? Mahmoud shouted in fury, I'll tear the head off this shameless parrot right here and show father my loyalty with its blood. At that moment, Joe spoke coldly, shut up. Everyone in the room flinched. He warned, if anyone makes a noise again, I'll kill every last one of you right here. Everyone was surprised by Joe's words. Shasha gave a cold laugh. He arrogantly said, even father is favoring those who share his blood, isn't he? Seriously, don't make me laugh. I can't believe I'm being humiliated by idiots like this. Solomon smiled, and Joe had already made his move. He raised his hand toward Shasha. With a bang, blood splattered everywhere. Shasha was still dazed from the unexpected blow. He struggled to lift his head, while Joe swung his arm, ready to hit him again. Joe grabbed Shasha by the hair, and slammed his head hard onto the table. The others were still stunned. Joe, his face covered in blood, said, your breathing is too loud. After a while, a man in a white suit was walking down the hallway, followed by a group of others. He spoke up, although this invitation may be a bit sudden, brothers from all over the world, we are here to bear witness to Shika's friendship. Suddenly, everyone's phones started ringing. When everyone opened their phones, they saw money had just been transferred. They exclaimed, oh my God, father's blessing. They flatter him, of course, Sir Bloff is truly amazing. It's only natural for us to return your kindness, right? No matter where you lead us, we'll always follow you. Then they entered the room from earlier. Inside, 4 bloody corpses lay scattered on the floor, while Joe and Solomon stood to one side. Those who had just followed in asked, what happened here? Someone screamed, ah. The man in the white suit spoke up for the first time, I have some very good news I'd like to share with everyone. The gods have bestowed a new blessing upon Shika, he said. He introduced it, its name is Tabga. He continued, with current technology, it's impossible to detect, and its effectiveness is hundreds of times greater than the old one. He corrected himself, No, it should be hundreds of millions of times greater. Moreover, even the most suffering sheep can now easily receive this blessing, he explained. The man in the white suit exclaimed, truly, this is the crystallization of blessings granted by God. He turned and asked, now, brothers, let me ask you, in order to spread this blessing far and wide, what must we do? The newcomers looked around in confusion. He was excited, yes, this is culture. By spreading blessings through songs, we will use culture to guide the way for them. From now on, all the little lambs will grow up with Tabga and become brothers and sisters in the future, he said. The man in the suit was moved, and as for us, we will uphold the glory of the God forever. Suddenly, Solomon announced, brothers, the banquet will be held here. I will guide you according to the plan. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone at the banquet immediately bowed to the leader of Shika and shouted in unison, Father, we will go now. Thank you for allowing us to share this grace. Glory to the new grace of the Lord. Then everyone left, and the gate automatically closed behind them. After the door was completely shut, Chul Min and Jonsu couldn't help but break into a sweat, nervously swallowing as they glanced at Shika, the leader. He suddenly glared at the two of them. Jonsu and he instantly shivered, their whole bodies trembling. Chul Min stood up straight, secretly watching his back while sweating profusely. He nonchalantly bent down, as if nothing had happened, gently picked up the bloody hand on the ground and said, Vice Minister Park Jonsu of the Korean Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Hearing himself being called, he immediately replied with a trembling voice, Yes, Father. The man lowered his voice and asked, Who is beside you? Jonsu nudged Chul Min as a reminder. He jolted, quickly answering with a slightly shaky voice, Huh? Oh, no, I'm Kim Chulman, who runs a K-pop entertainment company in Korea. The leader of Shika glanced him up and down, Nice to meet you. May God support you in the future. Unexpectedly, seeing how calm he was, the man let out a sigh of relief and replied, I am honored. Jonsu, seizing the chance, chimed in, Father, I'll find a way to solve the problem in Korea. He hadn't even finished his sentence when the man immediately snapped, incompetent, leaving him dumbfounded. The leader of Shika narrowed his eyes at him, his deep, raspy voice sounding, Incompetence is a sin. When there is sin, retribution will follow. He stressed, This is the will of Shika. Reprimanded, Jonsu immediately bowed his head in apology, I'm sorry. This time, I will definitely catch Yu Chaewon. He thought to himself, we've spent a long time preparing for the Lord's new gift, Tabga. Yu Chaewon, a beautiful and alluring woman. A top artist not only in Asia but also worldwide, receiving enthusiastic welcomes and admiration from countless fans. Her influence is undeniable, no one can resist Chaewon's charm. He gritted his teeth and thought, she must be brought here at all costs. However, due to the interference of a certain sinful heretic, he thought of our protagonist. And our plan was destroyed. He firmly held his ground, believing that no matter how much blood was shed, we must instill our will in her. If we could bring her here, she would definitely understand God's providence. He imagined the moment he captured Chaewon and found a way to manipulate her, she would be deeply indoctrinated. He pictured himself touching her beautiful face with dark intentions, and helping us spread Tabga's blessings to the whole world, as well as receiving salvation from the gods. His face was shrouded in endless darkness along with his evil scheme. The leader of Shika returned to the conversation, looking at Solomon and speaking in a hoarse voice. Because of the karma of uselessness, Shika has had to punish many people until now. He raised his eyebrows and, as if doing charity, said, We will support you, so make sure you handle things in Korea properly, while God still remembers you. As soon as he finished, Jonsu frantically bowed his head and shouted, Yes, 100, no, 1,000 times, I swear I'll be loyal. Then he whispered to his brother Chul Min beside him, What are you waiting for, you idiot Kim? Chul Min, startled, immediately bowed and replied, I swear loyalty. As for Solomon, he suddenly waved his hand. A female staff member carrying wine immediately understood and nodded at him. She approached the Shika boss and gently poured wine into his glass. Then, he raised his glass toward Chul Min and Jonsu and said coldly, Now, let's raise a glass together, brothers from Korea, to quench our thirst. Jonsu closed his eyes and immediately gulped down the drink. As soon as the wine touched his lips, he felt nauseous but tried to hold it back. Wait, what is this? Next to him, Chul Min's face twisted in disgust. He couldn't help but wipe his mouth a few times and muttered, What's going on? This wine smells funny. How does it taste? The Shika boss's voice rang out. He looked very eager to see their expressions, chuckled, and casually explained, This is wine made from the blood of heretics who dared to defy Shika. Immediately, Chul Min stared at his glass in disbelief and panic. Heretics? This is human blood? He was startled to see Jongsu beside him trying to gulp down all that bloody wine. He couldn't just keep staring at his glass of wine forever. After a while, his hands started trembling uncontrollably. Then he gritted his teeth and brought the glass to his lips, his face darker than soot, but he still forced himself to swallow it down. Even though Chul-min kept his mouth tightly shut, he couldn't stop himself from gagging, and he spilled fresh blood from the glass all over his hands. The Shika boss radiated an intense murderous aura. His face looked like he could kill him on the spot. Solomon and Joe stood to the side, silently watching the scene unfold. Meanwhile, in Korea, the park was crowded with passers-by. Next to a small convenience store, Chaewon sat on a bench, wearing a hat and sunglasses, quietly munching on a hamburger. The seat was littered with pastry wrappers. Yoo-hoon saw this scene and couldn't help but exclaim in shock. She really eats a lot for an idol. She ignored him and just kept eating pastries and drinking water. A while later, she let out a loud burp, satisfied and full. Then Chaewon turned and said quietly to him, "Given our current situation, do you think I can still worry about my image? It's been ages since I had a proper meal." She hesitated for a moment before asking, "By the way, can I ask you something? How much longer do we have to keep running like this?" Yoo-hoon, with a cigarette in his mouth, joked, "Look at you. Now that you've eaten, you're so lively. Just a moment ago you were trembling in fear." Hearing that, she let out a long sigh and replied, "Every time I think we've arrived somewhere, we have to move again. Or just when we start to rest, we have to get going. It's exhausting." "How long has it been? All this time I've only eaten cereal bars." Suddenly, she raised her voice in protest, "And who said I was trembling?" Yoo-hoon nodded, his voice softening a bit as if to comfort her. "Usually, those who are being chased have nowhere they can truly call safe." He glanced at the mice across the street and said, "The only way to survive is to hide, minimize your exposure, and keep moving constantly." Suddenly, he seemed to remember something and teased her, "Think about it, you've never seen Shin or Hyuk eat when they're with you, right?" Chaewon looked up. "Huh?" He leaned back in his chair and said calmly, "A basic rule for bodyguards on duty is that they don't eat or drink, because if they go to the bathroom, their client could be in danger. So they have to restrain themselves and always be ready," he said, then looked at the children playing in the distance. Chaewon was stunned after hearing that. She remembered that day when she met Shin-hyuk and thought to herself, "So that time, it wasn't that he didn't want to drink beer with me." Yoo-hoon watched her face as if she had just realized some profound truth. Then, he glanced calmly at the pile of trash on the bench and said, "Look, you're currently in an emergency situation, so consider yourself lucky that you can still eat and regain your strength." Chaewon nodded slightly, thought for a moment, then turned to him and asked curiously, "But, uncle, what's your relationship with Shin-hyuk? You two seem very close." He squinted, "That idiot?" Then shrugged and said frankly, "He's my junior." "Well, my junior is also retired now." He recalled memories of himself and Shin-hyuk back then said nostalgically, "I've known that kid since he was just a child." He explained, "To put it simply, you could say I'm the one who taught him to become who he is." Suddenly she felt very curious about him, so she couldn't help but ask, "What was Shin-hyuk like back then?" "He must have been really cool and emotionless, right?" Chaewon heard her question and briefly thought of Shin-hyuk's cold, handsome face. He answered honestly, "How should I put it, he was a rude, reckless guy with a terrible personality. And above all, he never followed orders and always got himself into trouble." Chaewon didn't expect that he used to have such a personality. She exclaimed and wondered, "So he hasn't changed at all?" "He really hasn't changed one bit." Yoo-hoon chuckled and said, "Well, let's change the subject." Suddenly, he smiled and asked her, "So, what's the relationship between you and him?" Hearing that, she immediately blushed and stammered, "Huh? What do you mean, uncle?" His face squinted mischievously, grinning from ear to ear. He couldn't help teasing her, "So what kind of connection does a celebrity like you have that you can be?" "Well, close and, intimate, with our Shin-hyuk like that." Chaewon's face turned even redder than a tomato, afraid he would misunderstand and think she and Shin-hyuk were lovers, so she quickly protested, "What relationship? We're just, boss and employee, that's all." Yoo-hoon looked at her and chuckled, imitating her blushing manner in amusement, while she could only glare at him helplessly. Suddenly, a phone started ringing in his pocket. He picked up the call and spoke into the phone. "Okay, have you finished eating?" Heyman replied, "Yes, uncle." On the other end, she softly said to him, "It's time to act." Yoo-hoon immediately stood up and laughed heartily, "Got it." He took off his hat, turned to Chaewon and said, "All right, stop eating, let's go." Sensing something was about to happen, Chaewon, afraid of getting hungry again, hurriedly stuffed all the remaining food into her mouth. A while later, she left with him, blending into the bustling crowd. After walking for a bit, Shin-hyuk immediately noticed what was behind them. He cautiously glanced back and thought to himself, those guys have started to lock us down. He instantly pressed himself against a wall, as if waiting to see what the pursuers would do next. The pursuers weren't fools either. Realizing they'd been spotted, they immediately called to report, the targets are moving. I think they've noticed we're following them. Standing behind the wall, Shin-hyuk frowned and cursed under his breath, these lunatics, then bit his lip. Shin-hyuk, we can't hold out much longer. At a lavish and luxurious party, beautiful, charming ladies laughed together, creating a scene as delightful as a feast for the senses. Chris can't restrain the demon inside him. He approaches a woman and says, hello, beautiful, pretending to care, did it hurt when you fell from heaven? Blushing and acting coy, he suggests, can I be your blanket tonight? The woman grimaces and immediately pulls away from him, running off. Sorry. After losing his prey, he regretfully watches her leave, crying inside. Suddenly, his phone rings. He quickly answers. The person on the other end says, Chris, it's been a while, hasn't it? Chris takes a step forward. Just hearing the voice on the other end of the line, he excitedly shouted, oh wow, that lunatic. Chris Carter, former member of Task Force 55, currently a CIA agent in Eastern Europe. And Shin-hyuk's colleague. Shin-hyuk opened his bag. He rummaged through his bag while on the phone, then asked, after analyzing the file I sent earlier, did you find anything? Chris let out a sneering laugh, you're exactly like I remember. He pretended to tear up, saying he'd missed him for so long, but just kept rambling. It's been ages since you called me, so I'm getting goosebumps all over, really startled. I still remember the smell of that field, back then, when we were on the snowy field. Shin-hyuk immediately cut him off, get to the point. But he didn't listen and kept sniffling. Those tough missions we mercenaries had to risk our lives so many times. Shin-hyuk lost his patience and scolded, talk business, hurry up. Being treated like that, he whined a bit, damn it, why are you so cold, huh? Do you know how much trouble I've gotten into because of this? On the other side, Shin-hyuk glanced through the documents he'd obtained and replied, if it wasn't you doing it, this mission would have been impossible. Chris wailed in disgust. God, you're getting smoother with words, Captain. Song, he frowned, switched to a serious tone, and said, but remember our previous promise, beautiful, the phone number. Shin-hyuk exhaled and assessed, you're still the same as ever. After a while, he replied, do you think I have something like that? He reminded coldly, can't you be serious for once? Chris sulked but still obediently answered, fine, I get it. He got straight to the point. First, about the identity of that tattoo. Just as you guessed, it's the lineage of Shika. His voice turned serious, to be precise, they're the leaders of areas supplied with drugs in different countries. His face hardened, lowering his voice close to the phone, that tattoo is like a way for them to show loyalty, right? I heard it's tattooed directly onto their backs. The head of each area must show absolute loyalty to Shika. And they must be the ones with enough military power. But Chris seemed a little disappointed. Unfortunately, all of this has become meaningless now. He raised his eyebrows, meaningless? He explained seriously, this information is now useless. He shook his head and said, because those leaders are no longer alive. As he finished, Shin-hyuk furrowed his brows, a bit surprised by the information he had received. On the other end of the line, Chris reminded him, Captain, their threat level is rated as high. If we get more involved. Shin-hyuk fell silent, pondering his words. His hand holding the photo of a brightly smiling girl clenched tightly. At night, the sky was pitch black. At the lower reaches of the Han River, a man silently stood in the darkness right at the edge of the bridge. A fisherman saw the man and was startled, shouting, hey, are you here to catch fish in the Han River too? That man was none other than our protagonist, Shin-hyuk, who directly replied, no, then implied, instead, I want to catch crabs. The old man looked at him for a while, then chuckled, so, you're still alive, huh? The boat drifted on the river. The waves slapped endlessly against the side of the boat. The old man pulled up the net and smirked in wonder, questioning who had made you use something this dangerous again. He took the suitcase from the net and placed it on the boat. Shin-hyuk stared at the soaking wet suitcases and said in a low voice, there are some people for whom just killing them isn't enough. After that, Shin-hyuk walked slowly down the street, deep in thought, according to the information Chris provided. The Japanese man he had met at the concert, he frowned. A man with a scar on his face flashed through his mind. Higashi Kyo, Kuro, the head of the East Asia region. He kept pondering, after that man failed to capture Yu Chai-won, Shika wiped out all the remaining leaders in one go. That means they've already considered me, Yu Chai-won's bodyguard, a threat. And they won't accept failure. So it's highly likely they'll send people even stronger than the previous leaders. He carefully thought about what to do. I need to create a new variable. I need a team. He walked forward step by step. Suddenly, everything around was unusually quiet. He glanced around cautiously, assessing his surroundings. Then he walked up to the entrance of a company. His footsteps echoed loudly on the cement floor. He stepped inside, but not a single person appeared. He glanced slightly at the shadowy corner hidden in the darkness. Then he fell silent, staying alert, but he had already noticed it, the familiar method and this feeling. He clenched his teeth, his veins bulging instantly. Why did they become subordinates to a criminal organization? He immediately raised his head to look toward the approaching footsteps, his voice cold as he spoke. What a waste of time, Black Panther. A group of thugs strode in, all dressed in pitch-black clothes. No one else but the National Special Task Force, the eyes of the Black Panther. Meanwhile, in a remote and desolate mountain area, there was also a group of menacing-looking people in black standing there. Guune slowly walked forward, with Chaewon, her face covered, behind him. He smiled nonchalantly and said, "So you finally decided to show up, our longtime rookie." The one who replied was Co Taegon, captain of the Black Panther Claw team. He frowned and answered, "I just received a signal of a recent approach from headquarters. Apprehend Wang Guune, my former teacher, or rather, traitor Wang Guune." In 19XX, when the whole world was thrown into chaos, an airplane exploded in the sky. At the same time, a building was collapsing. According to orders from the VIPs, we didn't act as individual agents, but as a team. At the same time, the Korean government's safety planning team, now the National Intelligence Service, gathered criminals with various charges, and forced them to undergo rigorous training, to create a secret elite organization called Black Panther. Although it operated for only a short time, Black Panther achieved significant results. During its golden age, it experienced systematic development. Afterwards, Black Panther was divided into several teams for different purposes. One team, the Eyes, was formed to track targets and assess situations during missions. The Tail team was responsible for cooperating with and supporting the other teams, and handling mission logistics and information. The Fang team specializes in handling personal matters, including terrorism. Taegon frowned, his voice a bit puzzled. "Teacher, the legend who founded Black Panther has turned his back on the organization. Has time changed you, teacher?" he said, staring intently at Guune. Guune let out a chuckle. "What? Turned my back on the organization? Time?" He laughed mockingly. "That blind loyalty is what destroyed the organization. And you still call yourself Black Panther?" With that, he glanced down at Chaewon. She caught his meaning and immediately ran off toward the forested mountains. Taegon frowned and muttered, "You Chaewon has escaped." He turned to his teammates and ordered, "Quickly inform everyone else. Yu Chaewon is currently being protected by the enemy. The mission objective remains the same. Capture Yu Chaewon and eliminate any other obstacles." He added, "But make sure she's not harmed. You can take precautionary measures during the mission." His voice rose urgently as he spoke, "The Tail team will track her immediately." At once, everyone sprang into action. Then, Taegon turned to glare at Guune, his voice cold, "Senior Wang Guune, you're the history of the Black Panther, but today you'll be eliminated." The sky was a deep blue, and below it stood towering mountain ranges. The sound of hurried footsteps echoed relentlessly across the deserted mountain. A man received his orders through an earpiece. "Headquarters here, can everyone hear me? Quickly report your mission progress." He immediately replied, "This is the Tail team." He scanned his surroundings. The man was Park Jae-yoon, captain of the Black Panther's Tail team. He reported through his earpiece, "We've already used up about half of our allotted mission time." The men in black hurriedly pressed on with their mission. Shin Hyuk is surrounded inside the building. Guune is facing off against the Black Shirt Gang. Even Chaewon is running away in fear. Meanwhile, Jaeyoon reports to a man wearing glasses that Shin Hyuk will be held back by the I-team. That man is none other than Ik-soo, who is startled to hear this. "Wait, you split them up?" He nods and replies, "Yes, no matter how good Lee Shin Hyuk and Wang Guune are, concentrating the whole team on just those two isn't very efficient." Ik-soo didn't expect him to act on his own. He stands up in shock and angrily yells, "You idiot, are you crazy?" Choi Ik-soo, head of National Information Planning, coldly reminds him, "Didn't I tell you not to split up the team?" He adjusts his glasses and tries to calm himself to listen to Jaeyoon's explanation. But, judging by the situation, which is also a characteristic of the Jaguar, this also affects the pride of the other team members. As soon as the sentence ended, Ik-soo immediately slammed the table in frustration and shouted, "What the hell are you talking about, you idiot?" He pounded on the table and sternly reminded, "Your opponent is Lee Shin Hyuk, Lee Shin Hyuk." On the other side, the one mentioned, Shin Hyuk, was kneeling on one knee on the ground, holding a razor-sharp dagger in his hand. His face was filled with a coldness and murderous intent that could kill someone instantly. At a certain construction site, Someone had brought an entire group of people to stand in front of Shin Hyuk. He spoke up, putting the mission aside. Personally, I'm really curious. Shin Hyuk silently listened to him speak. Vanta Black, the best in the Black Panther squad. Lee Shin Hyuk. He kept talking with a cool attitude. Is he really that strong? He kept staring at you. It would be amazing if I ever got a chance to face someone like that. He's Ya Guanman, the Black Panther's captain. Guanman closed his eyes and bowed his head. But now, he said you only dared to secretly look for your retired teacher. I feel a bit disappointed seeing such cowardly behavior from you. Shin Hyuk kept silently listening to Guanman. Rumor has it that after your sister died, you became a drifter. What's wrong? Are you afraid of dying now? He spat out words of contempt. Usually, we follow orders, but for useless trash like this, we probably don't even need to use our guns. The group in black clothes and black masks following Guanman shouted, Yes, sir. Guanman pulled out a rather long knife. Don't expect us to show mercy just because you were once a comrade. This world needs to be cleansed, doesn't it? He raised the knife higher, his mouth still running. I want to keep it clean, away from trash like you. Shin Hyuk finally spoke. 1, 2, 8. He looked at the group with disdain. Is this all you've got? Guanman smugly replied, Well, 8 Black Panthers are more than enough to handle a loudmouth like you. A lion facing a rabbit. He mentioned the battle between a lion and a rabbit, but having a lion fight a rabbit is a basic tactic, so you don't need to feel bad. Guanman twirled the knife in his hand, looking down on the man before him. Other teams are working hard to send people like you to the afterlife, too. Shin Hyuk let out a long sigh, coldly staring at the group in front of him. Pathetic. Haven't you learned the basics? How many years have you been doing this? One of the Black Panthers retorted. What the hell is he saying? Is he crazy? Captain, if you'll allow it, let me take care of him. Before he could finish, Shin Hyuk cut him off. You talk too much. Seeing how fast he moved, both the Black Panther guy and Guanman widened their eyes in surprise. The Black Panther with the knife charged at Shin Hyuk. What the hell, this bastard? Shin Hyuk didn't back down and went toe-to-toe with him right away. He knocked the knife right out of his hand, and then twisted his arm, making the Black Panther guy scream in pain. He was in so much pain that the veins bulged all over his face. Before he could recover, Shin Hyuk was already behind him holding the knife. He didn't hesitate and stabbed the Black Panther right in the neck. His ketchup splattered everywhere, and seeing this, Guanman froze up, while Shin Hyuk said that understanding your enemy's strength to allocate your own forces is what really matters. Holding that ketchup-covered knife, he said, This is the most basic tactic. So in that construction site, ketchup was flying everywhere. That Black Panther guy's hand was lying limp on the ground. After dealing with him, Shin Hyuk said, You guys should have brought everyone here. Seeing his underling get beat into a pulp like that, Guanman angrily shouted, Damn it. He ordered the remaining men, members, get into position. But Shin Hyuk went around beating each one of them to a pulp. He skillfully wielded the knife, sending these guys to meet their ancestors. Guanman, not seeing any of his men, shouted loudly, What are you all doing? Get back in formation. But he didn't expect that Shin Hyuk was already taking care of each of them, almost done. Seeing that, he thought to himself, they're being taken out one by one. Is this really Lee Shin Hyuk? Guanman's men were trembling, their faces drained of all color in fear. Guanman broke out in a sweat as he looked at Shin Hyuk. He coldly glanced back at him. Guanman thought to himself, I can't move at all anymore. Shin Hyuk finally rushed to Guanman, and the last thought in Guanman's mind was, I'm so scared, before Shin Hyuk grabbed his face and pushed him down. He drove the knife straight into Guanman. Shin Hyuk held a knife covered in ketchup, his hand also smeared with the mess. He stood up over Guanman's body and tossed the knife aside. Then he left. Shin Hyuk thought to himself, even though the golden opportunity had passed, seeing the panther in such a pitiful state was truly regrettable. As he walked, he continued thinking, this must just be the tracking team, so the main force must be elsewhere. Shin Hyuk picked up his phone to call someone, but there was a message saying the person your call. A location appeared on his phone screen. Shin Hyuk puts the phone down. He thinks deeply, Shika has already teamed up with the black newspaper, we can't waste any more time. Shin Hyuk leaves immediately after that. In an office somewhere, Iksu sighs, alright, since things have come to this, we'll have to give it up. Prioritize capturing Yu Chai-won. He thinks to himself, with the combination of the stock and the tail, even Wang Gyuhoon will have a hard time. Iksu orders, quickly capture Yu Chai-won alive and send everyone to Lee Shin-hyuk's location. The person on the phone says, this is Tail, we have something to report. Iksu replies, go ahead. A voice on the phone reported that Yu Chai-won had suddenly separated from Wang Gyuhoon and fled, so our tailing team would split up to chase after Yu Chai-won. Suddenly, his hand began to tremble, Gyuhoon. Iksu slammed the table in anger, Wang Guune, you bastard, why do you always get in my way at the most crucial moments? He thought back to the time on the snowstorm mountain. Iksu was climbing the mountain with another teammate. That teammate collapsed from exhaustion. He reached out to Iksu and said, help me. But Iksu just clenched his teeth. He didn't save him but even said, if you want to die, then die alone, don't drag me with you. Then he just left his teammate behind and climbed the mountain. As he climbed, he grimaced and said, the new command position of the Jaguar team will help this country. It's the position I need to achieve my ambitions. Iksu climbed the mountain while being troubled by a snowstorm, so no matter what, I will prove myself here. At the top, there were tents already set up. Iksu, exhausted, clung to a tent, gasping for breath. Someone came up to him and said, why do you always get in my way at the most important times? Iksu turned and looked at him. He asked, what's your name? Iksu thought to himself, that's right, I'm the top candidate here. Iksu raised his hand as if saluting and said, number 122, Choi Iksu. Suddenly, the people there looked behind him and started gossiping. No way, have you ever seen a monster like that? Seeing them act that way, Iksu was completely confused. After that harsh elimination, the new organization's commander underneath was. Then, the scene showed Guune carrying someone on his back and holding another in his arms. Guune called the roll, number 121, Wang Guune. Wang Guune was selected as the candidate for victory. What Guune just did left Iksu in complete shock. Then, a man in all black with a black mask, looking like a dog thief, appeared. He became one of the pillars of the Black Report and was considered the best agent of all time. That man in black looked around. And he never left his post until his eyes, Guune's gaze was razor sharp. He was a true Black Panther. Guune turned and smiled, come on, do you assassins really need to ambush an old man like me? He added, all right, pay attention, little kittens, there are more Black Panther members behind those trees. It seemed Guune had noticed them all. He continued, from now on, this teacher. With a dangerously menacing look, Guune said, we'll give you ignorant juniors your final lesson. Taegon gave the order to the whole team through the radio, everyone, take him down quickly. Following the order, the whole team rushed out from behind the trees, trying to attack Guune from behind. But he easily dodged their sudden attacks from behind. The masked man is startled when Guune dodges his attack so quickly. He mocks them, oh, look at you guys. The masked man panics and takes a defensive stance, darting his eyes to find where Guune is. Guune reminds him, kid, if you want to ambush your target. He throws the man down before he can react and continues teaching, you shouldn't breathe so heavily. And if your opponent knows in advance. The masked man's eyes widen in fear. Guune calmly picks up the knife, the result will be death. He decisively stabs the knife down, red syrup spurts out, one down. He tosses the body aside, turns back to the others and cheerfully says, Tisk, you guys should try harder if you want to see Yu Chai won. She'll make it out, because that girl is still very valuable. Another teammate of the masked man was about to charge in but freezes after seeing his friend taken down so quickly. The leader of the Fang squad calls out his name in his mind, Wang Guune. Guune smirked and said, all right then. He got into a fighting stance, ready to get serious. And challenge, come on, let's continue. At the same time, the Black Panther's tail team was chasing Chaewon, shouting from behind, you Chaewon, stop right there. Soon, both sides were chasing each other through the forest and into a residential area. The tail team split up, some kept chasing her, while others ambushed from the rooftops. She effortlessly jumped over the fence. The Black Panther team leader analyzed silently, there's something really strange about her. The way she moves and shakes us off, it's not something a normal person could do. Wait, but why did she suddenly start running away? Right then, two people from the ambush team Joom. She stopped in surprise, a bit flustered and unsure how to move forward. The two masked men immediately reassured her, you Chaewon, please stay calm, we're here to help you. Then one of them spoke while moving closer to her. As soon as he said that, she stepped back, keeping only an arm's length distance between them. Jay also rushed over. Seeing Chaewon's profile, he suddenly understood, could it be? Then he shouted loudly, wait. His teammate stood still in confusion, while she quickly drew a knife and moved lightning fast behind him. She held the knife to his neck, catching him completely off guard. Without hesitation, she swiftly slashed, and Kree. Jay clenched his teeth and thought, she's not Yu Chaewon, she's bait. Realizing her identity had been exposed, she ripped off her brown wig, glasses, and mask, then taunted, are you disappointed? She was Hae-min, Wang's student, and continued, that's a shame, isn't it? Then she immediately escaped into a pitch-black alley. The tail team, realizing she wasn't Chaewon, stopped chasing. Jay anxiously approached his teammate, are you hurt? His subordinate bowed apologetically. I'm fine, I'm really sorry. Jay silently analyzed. She uses the Black Panther sword technique. He recalled her every attack move. Could she be Wang Gyuhoon's secret student? She was definitely not an amateur. This is a variable we couldn't have anticipated in this mission. Jay reported into his walkie-talkie. Tail team reporting, we've fallen into a trap. Maybe we should change the plan. Receiving the information, Taegon was confused. A trap? His eyes narrowed as he continued to watch Gyuhoon. At this moment, he single-handedly took down almost the entire Fang team. Their bodies are scattered everywhere, while he calmly keeps his hands in his pockets. You're hiding behind a big tree, so where is Yu Chaewon really? While you weren't paying attention, Gyuhoon quickly ran off somewhere. Suddenly, he appeared in front of you, startling you. His eyes flashed with murderous intent. Look around you, why aren't you taking this fight seriously? That reminder made Taegon more alert. He quickly stepped back, dodging the deadly slash just in time. At that terrifying speed, his hand holding the knife trembled. Gyuhoon spun his blade. You really are an odd kid. How can you let your guard down right in front of your senior? Immediately after, Gyuhoon attacked with lightning speed. Taegon stepped back to dodge. Gyuhoon was so fast, it felt like 3 knives were coming at him at once. But it wasn't just a knife. A fist swung right at your face. You took that punch straight on. Your eyes turned furious as you glared at the one who hit you. Meanwhile, Gyuhoon smugly pulled his hand back. Taegon pieced everything together from the start. Wang Gyuhoon used bait to scatter our forces. And he took advantage because our main combat team, and the rear team, which specializes in intel and support, got separated. So the clue about Yu Chaewon's location. It's probably in the hands of that decoy woman. He grips the knife tightly, focusing seriously on his opponent. Things aren't looking good. It's unbelievable that our Black Panther team is struggling to deal with these traitors. At the same time, a masked man with white hair, wielding a knife, charges in. He immediately attacks Gyuhoon, but Gyuhoon is quick enough to block the surprise move. Taegon suddenly mutters to himself, Fang? That's Knees, the Black Panther Special Agent, Elite Task Force, Fang from Team 1. Seeing Fang, he becomes even more cautious and shifts to defense. Even Fang was dispatched here? They're professionals trained to handle national-level problems. There are 3 men with white hair and black scarves covering half their faces. It's the Black Panther Hunt Squad's suicide formation. Gyuhoon stays alert. I can't linger here any longer. If the other teams are arriving this quickly, Heyman will be in trouble. Earlier, when you two were discussing the plan, he already warned us, there's no more time. The Black Panther is right on our tail now. He took out a pendant and continued, saying our top priority is to deliver this to Shin Hyuk. Heyman immediately objected, shouldn't we find another way to let Shin Hyuk know about the existence of the real base? He immediately denied it. No. Black Panther is the most advanced organization of Knees, and their usual means of communication is GPS. Almost everything is under their control. Gyuhoon added, in cases like this, we need to use special measures. Because neither you nor Shin Hyuk thought Black Panther would be involved with them. She asked again, why did Black Panther end up like this? He replied, no matter the organization, if its core rots, sooner or later the other parts will also collapse. Or maybe it had already been rotten from the start. He affirmed, in other words, both of us have to become bait, and, no matter how hard it gets, we still have to complete the mission. Heyman immediately nodded in agreement, I'll do it. Shin Hyuk saved me once already. Gyuhoon hesitated before replying, all right. He looked worriedly at her back, but Heyman, you must make sure to come back alive. At this moment, the tail team was urgently searching for Heyman. She can't have gone far. All units, stay alert and pay close attention. Team 2 Fang has joined the tail team. Underneath a building, Heyman is clutching the wound on his neck, red syrup trickling down, his body staggering and trembling. The head of the planning department is satisfied with the plan. All right, with the participation of the 2 Fang teams, everything should go smoothly. He watches everything on the TV screen. Wang Gyuhoon won't be able to stay indifferent anymore. Then he grins, Lee Shin Hyuk, even if you're Vanta Black, it's going to be tough for you. On the corner of the TV screen he's watching, there's a forest scene. Suddenly, his phone rings with a notification. It's not time to relax yet. He's confused. The person on the phone reports that Lee Shin Hyuk isn't alone. Meanwhile, the tail team is discussing among themselves. The fake Yu Chaewon has been seriously injured and is hiding somewhere nearby. First, don't fight, tighten the net and force her to come out. A platinum-haired man is sitting on the rooftop, observing everyone. That person waved his hand and cast something, causing a series of intertwined green threads to appear. Those green threads tightly wrapped around all the members of the tail team, making everyone panic. That platinum-haired man controlled the threads with his hands. That's really strange. One thread wrapped around a tail team member's neck, making him cry out. The platinum-haired man pulled the threads back. The panther I know isn't this weak. Then he cast the Arataki technique. All the threads wrapped around the tail team tightened, making them unable to move. Then the platinum-haired man called out the name of his technique, Karakuri, and jumped down from the rooftop. The green threads turned into knives, slicing the tail team members in half. A scene drenched in crimson syrup. Standing and looking at the red stains scattered on the ground. The man laughed mockingly. How boring. So he was Arataki Eiji, Japanese, a member of Special Task Force 55, Lee Shin-hyuk's teammate. Japan, Osaka, at Dotonbori. In a small alley, a garbage dump is dimly lit. Two people just entered the alley, suddenly froze and backed away. Both of them trembled and then shouted, "Hey, over here, someone's dead over here." The corpse was Akasaka Shintaro, former Japanese Minister of Foreign Affairs and political criminal. Eiji stood in the shadows from afar, observing. Seeing that everyone had discovered the body, he immediately turned and left. As he was walking, his phone vibrated. It was a call from the captain. He brought the phone to his ear. Reported on the mission progress, saying today's work was done. Then, hearing something over the phone, he suddenly exclaimed, "See Captain." Returning to the present time, Eiji had just jumped down from the rooftop, landing very lightly. He was also calling to report, "Yes, Captain, I've arrived at the scene. The person to be protected has been located." Seeing Hei-min trembling with a bleeding wound, he immediately reported it, but that person's condition was very. Hei-min saw Eiji. She looked very weak but immediately raised her knife to defend herself. However, losing too much strawberry syrup made her stagger and unable to stand, and when Eiji saw that she had noticed him but was swaying as if she might fall, he became worried. He quickly waved his hands and shook his head to explain, "Hey, I'm an ally. I came to help you." Seeing her ally arrive and knowing she was no longer in danger, her eyes darkened and she collapsed. He hurriedly rushed over to support her head, afraid she would hit it on the ground. Gently laying her down, he reminded her, "Hey, don't push yourself. You'll die." Her face grew paler by the second, breathing heavily as sweat poured down. He immediately fell into deep thought. How did it come to this? He spoke coldly, though he could understand that you all are just people who live and die by orders. But this is going too far. His words were meant for all the Black Panther squad standing behind and even those surrounding ahead. Jay hesitated. Japanese? Are they Lee Shin-hyuk's reinforcements? Could it be that famous Unit 55? He immediately warned his teammates, "They're not easy opponents. Everyone prepare your positions for tomorrow." But before he could finish speaking, someone had already fallen for his throwing star. Two others drew knives and charged, both of them rushing at Eiji at the same time. But he simply leapt lightly to dodge both of their attacks. His veiny hands moved slightly. Somehow, he pulled out 3 throwing darts. He flipped in the air, hurling the darts straight into the enemy's vital points, his moves swift and decisive. The two instantly collapsed. Eiji landed softly on the ground. Watching that scene, Jay broke into a cold sweat. He had taken down 3 people in the blink of an eye. Then 3 more men stood in front of him, each wielding much more dangerous-looking weapons. All of their faces radiated murderous intent. Eiji pulled up a scarf to cover half his face, ready to fight them alone. At the same time, somewhere else in the forest, facing Fang, Gyuhoon is also gasping for breath. Bruises appear on his face. Fang charges forward to seize the initiative and attack first. He quickly dodges as well. But then, another member of Fang's team suddenly attacks, catching him off guard and injuring him. His face darkens. These guys coordinate really well. So this is Fang's true strength. Taegon stands to the side, watching everything from start to finish. He stood there watching Gyuhoon get hurt, his whole body trembling in pain. He pleaded, "Give up, you're old now, you know that, even if it were you, that was all in the past, you can't escape from the clutches of those still in the game." But he held the knife tightly. Gyuhoon charged at Taegon, catching him off guard. But before Gyuhoon could reach Taegon, the gang member swung a knife at his neck, forcing him to throw his head back to dodge. He retreated to his original position, body crouched low to the ground. Seeing this, Taegon asked, "I really don't understand, why would you risk your life for Lee Shin-hyuk? Is he really that special?" He answered, panting heavily, "Sometimes, there are things more important than personal gain." He silently thought of Heyman, who was in critical condition. Gyuhoon continued, "Kids these days aren't romantic at all, huh? The golden era of former coach Vanta Black Wong Gyuhoon in the past, a call from the planning director, Gyuhoon, it's me, the planning director. This is supposed to be secret at the deputy director level and above, but among the list of researchers kidnapped in the Vladivostok biochemical lab terrorist attack." He continued, "There's Dr. Wong Byun-hoon, Gyuhoon's younger brother, but this time, Deputy Director Choi Ik-soo has proposed to cancel the rescue mission. The conversation went on, afraid of causing an international incident. You know how the Russians are, even though I understand how you feel, if you act rashly. You'll be in danger too. You must not act recklessly. Gyu-hoon hurriedly ran up to the rooftop, panting as he opened the door and cursed, Choi Ik-soo, you bastard. He saw him approaching the helicopter. He shouted loudly in a hurry, Choi Ik-soo, how dare you? He rushed over, grabbed his collar angrily and scolded, hey you, are you even human? At the very least, you should have told me. He pushed him away, get a hold of yourself. This is a decision for the country. The kidnappers are backed by a national power. If we're careless, it could lead to conflict with Russia. Don't you understand? Gyu-hoon seemed to be trying hard to control his anger, while Soo straightened his collar. The helicopter blades gradually stopped, and someone began to step down from the helicopter. Both Gyu-hoon and Soo were surprised when they saw who got off the helicopter. He shouted, Bi Byun-hoon. The newcomer turned out to be Wang Byun-hoon, the head of KIT's chemical research team and Wang Gyu-hoon's younger brother. He hurriedly ran over and hugged his brother tightly. Soo was also surprised, he had no idea about this. He immediately asked the agent standing close by, Agent Lee Do-won, I clearly said to stop the operation, but the other replied, I understand, but we're Vanta Black. We prioritize field assessment and have already carried out the mission. He turned to see Shin Hyuk approaching as well. He immediately slapped him hard across the face. He was so furious the veins stood out on his face. Hey, Lee Shin Hyuk, you're supposed to be the brains of Vanta Black and that's all you can do? This is outright insubordination. Shin Hyuk calmly replied, according to Vanta Black's assessment, we were confident in the field, and as a result, we were able to rescue Dr. Wang Byun-hoon safely, weren't we? Gyu-hoon looked at Shin Hyuk as if to say thank you. Soo's face grew increasingly angry, he could only curse under his breath. Damn it, at this rate, my orders will end up being seen as a mistake, and my position in Vanta Black. Shaking with rage, he snapped, Lee Shin Hyuk, you have to take responsibility for this act of insubordination. However, a man in a formal suit replied, responsibility? He's Wang Hyuk-hee, the head of the National Intelligence Agency at that time. Seeing him, Soo immediately became timid, Director, why are you? No, that's not what I meant. Soo knew the director was probably here because Gyu-hoon called him. He glanced at him and cursed under his breath, Wang Gyu-hoon, that guy. The director patted Shin Hyuk on the shoulder in praise. If you can bring back national talent without conflict, you deserve a reward, not blame. Captain Lee Shin Hyuk, you've done well. Shin Hyuk humbly replied, I was just fulfilling my duty to Vanta Black. Hyuk-hee turned and called, Deputy Director Choi Ik-soo. He quickly bowed his head obediently, yes, Director. The other man reminded him, you're the Deputy Director of Vanta Black. Whatever you do, do it properly. He noticed Shin Hyuk was supporting Byun and leading him away. He turned back and said to Gyu-hoon, Wang Gyu-hoon, the Deputy Director's orders sound like trash, don't they? How dare you drag others into this? He replied, Choi Ik-soo. He warned, Vanta Black isn't your stepping stone for promotion. That greed will destroy you one day. Angrily, he snapped, shut up, you. In his mind, he thought, you, and your precious Lee Shin Hyuk, let's see what you two can really do. He just stayed silent, not saying a word. He thought to himself, Shin Hyuk, thank you. I'll remember what happened today for the rest of my life. Back to the present, Taegon said, how pitiful, Wang Gyu-hoon. It's over now. A sound from behind made him turn around. Then he was startled, his teammates had all fallen. Their eyes met. Taegon is panicked, Lee Shin Hyuk. Gyu-hoon, exhausted but more relaxed and cheerful, thinks, this nemesis really got here fast. Shin Hyuk speaks coldly, you messed with the wrong target. His eyes are fierce, full of killing intent, from today, Vanta Black will disappear. After Shin Hyuk's firm declaration, the whole elite Black Panther task force looks at him in surprise. They break out in a cold sweat as he approaches, forced to retreat and defend themselves. He glances toward the source of the dry cough. He sees Gyu-hoon, completely drained, his face pale and haggard, panting heavily. Shin Hyuk realized the situation was dire. He thought to himself, there's no time left, both the teacher and Hae-min need treatment. Taegon didn't hesitate and directly asked him, why, Lee Shin Hyuk? Leaving him confused and glancing over. Taking this chance, he wanted to clear up his doubts as well. Taegon continued, after all, you used to be someone everyone in Vanta Black admired. No matter the reason, why would someone like you kidnap Yu Chai want to threaten Vanta Black and the nation? Without beating around the bush, Shin Hyuk gripped his dagger tightly, startling Taegon with his sudden action. Not giving his opponent a chance to escape, he dashed forward at lightning speed, charging straight at the frozen Taegon, who was still shocked by the dangerous turn of events. In just a split second, Shin Hyuk had already closed in on his target, while Taegon could only put up a simple defense. Panicking, he wondered, how can he be this fast? He quickly leapt backward. Tilting his body, he narrowly dodged a lethal slash aimed at a critical spot. Unfazed, Taegon rallied his will to counterattack. At the very least, he thought, I have to try. But Shin Hyuk didn't reveal any openings for his opponent to counterattack. He gripped the dagger from behind and quickly finished off his prey. At that moment, Taegon saw the knife closing in on him, shocked and terrified, only able to think that the sword seemed to move with a soul of its own, following every evasive move. With death looming, all he could think was that there was absolutely no way to dodge it. Suddenly, someone struck the tip of the blade, knocking it off course and saving Taegon's life. No one else but the elite Black Panther Special Forces team. Shin Hyuk's face remained expressionless. He glanced at them, his eyes full of resentment. Once, the place where I had sworn loyalty even at the cost of my life, he launched himself from behind to ambush Shin Hyuk. They gathered together, surrounding and attacking him non-stop, trying to overwhelm him. And yet they hid my sister's death, the one who meant everything to me. Every fragment of his memory appears, and each piece is the sister he loved, each one a pain that can't be erased. Shin Hyuk is filled with both bitterness and hatred, and now, they even want to kill all of us. Meanwhile, Gyu Hoon joins in, moves toward Taegon to block him. His eyes drift off absent-mindedly. This unexpected appearance irritates Taegon. Wang Gyu Hoon, you're quite persistent. He forgot what he'd just been through and started provoking again, but can Shin Hyuk handle them all alone? No matter how skilled he is, their opponents are the Fang team. Optimized for predatory tactics. Hearing that, he scoffs at the naivety. Taegon picks up his knife, preparing to attack, and mocks, what's so funny? Is death right in front of you that you've lost your mind? Or are you just senile from old age? Ryu Hoon looks at him and mocks, no, it really is funny, seeing a caterpillar posing in front of a chrysalis. Taegon is confused by him, only able to ask, what? Ryu Hoon shares some knowledge. The hunt strategy is the pinnacle of interpersonal tactics. Elite agents like Eye, Tail, Claw, and Fang's team move like wild beasts, creatures that pounce and tear at each other, each optimizing their own strengths to take down powerful opponents. He asks you back, but do you guys think it's effective? Taegon turns to look at the chaos, inwardly shaken. Shin Hyuk isn't fazed at all by being ganged up on. His skills are top-notch, and he handles every situation flawlessly. He effortlessly dodges every attack. Taegon panics as he watches, thinking, keeping distance, positioning, taunts, finishing moves, none of it works. Seeing that emotionless, ruthless expression, he quietly guesses the truth. It's as if he's watched. Hoon sighed in exasperation at their intelligence and spoke bluntly, you idiots still don't get it? The predatory tactics you trust so much, the one who created them is the monster Shin Hyuk. Standing right in front of you. Taegon looked over at Shin Hyuk in disbelief. The elite Black Panther Special Forces team was so shocked by what they heard that all three froze on the spot. Shin Hyuk raised his blade and gripped it tightly. He even praised them with ease. Your efforts to adapt the predatory tactics are commendable, and at the same time, he quickly lunged forward and slashed cleanly at the first guy. Slash. Gyu Hoon kept mocking, but all they could do was imitate Shin Hyuk's original moves. He continued to unleash a flurry of slashes, leaving his opponents no chance to react. Shin Hyuk combined multiple techniques, attacking his enemy's vital spots, boom, bang, bang. The basic idea is that the tactics were designed to take down stronger targets. One guy, bleeding from the face after being hit by Shin Hyuk, was spitting blood. He continued speaking, but at the same time, the first attacker rushed in, holding a dagger, trying to strike him head-on. If the opponent was a superhuman capable of taking out the whole hunting team, Shin Hyuk pushed off the ground with his foot. This caused the attacker to stab into thin air out of momentum, while Shin Hyuk was already airborne, taking full control of the situation. In other words, if the opponent's combat power far surpassed the team's combined strength, Shin Hyuk focused his power in his leg mid-air, landing a fierce kick to the attacker's head. Gyu Hoon concluded, in reality, the hunting tactics became meaningless, as that kick concentrated all his strength on the opponent's thinking center. Taegon witnessed this and was frozen in fear. He thought to himself, is the gap in strength really this big? In front of Shin Hyuk, he felt so small, unable to compare in strength or talent. This was the man who led the golden age of the agents. Shin Hyuk grips the knife tightly, his sharp eyes locked on the prey. He finishes off 3 enemies at once in a zigzag motion at lightning speed, unstoppable. Vanta Black, Shin Hyuk, Behind his solitary shadow lies the defeated elite Black Panther task force. He freezes in place, not moving. His heart holds only one will, to avenge his sister. If anything stands in the way, the leader of the Black Panther gang still holding on, gasping for breath. Behind them, a pair of pale legs appears. Sensing someone still breathing, Shin Hyuk turns around. No matter who the enemy is, no matter how many, he will face them. He slowly walks toward the man and the woman with the all-white body reaching out to him, perhaps the image of his sister in his thoughts. Shin Hyuk silently made up his mind to completely destroy them, and picked up the dagger again. He raised the dagger high, intending to finish off his opponent, who no longer had the strength to resist. Suddenly, a voice rang out, "Stop, Lee Shin Hyuk." Interrupted before he could act, his mood grew even worse. Taegon tried to salvage the situation. He grabbed Gyu Hoon as a hostage to bargain. "If you don't want Wang Gyu Hoon to be killed, drop your weapon and surrender." He pressed the knife to Gyu Hoon's neck as he spoke, but the threat had no effect. Shin Hyuk simply replied, "Go ahead and try." Taegon was now terrified, stammering, What? With unbelievable speed, Shin Hyuk dashed toward the two of them. At that moment, Gyu Hoon suddenly knocked Taegon's hand away, catching him off guard. He scoffed, "Too clumsy." Losing his hostage and with Shin Hyuk closing in, Taegon found himself completely unable to control the situation. Shin Hyuk silently declared, "I'll crush you all," then landed a full-force punch straight into Taegon's face, the impact distorting his features beyond recognition. The devastating punch packed a serious punch, sending Taegon flying a good distance. Thud, crash. The whole forest was shaken, proving the strength of the one at the top. Shin Hyuk slowly approached while Taegon could only retreat. Exhausted, he slumped to the ground, feeling a dull, throbbing pain all over his body. Taegon couldn't accept it, still muttering in disbelief, "What? This is insane." He looked up, struggling to open his eyes as blood streamed from his nose. This doesn't make any sense. His vision blurred, he could only make out Shin Hyuk's faint, shadowy figure. Shin Hyuk looked at him and said, "Was this an order from Choi Ik-soo, for me to kidnap Yu Chai-won?" Hearing that, Taegon weakly replied, "How could that be?" Now Shin Hyuk explained everything clearly. "Did your superior say anything about me threatening the government?" "Forget that for now. Do you really think Yu Chai-won looked like she was being forced to follow me?" So many strange things made Taegon confused. He could only say, "What?" He remembered the message sent by Choi Ik-soo, basically saying that former agent Lee Shin Hyuk had kidnapped singer Yu Chai-won, threatened the government and Vanta Black, and might be a North Korean spy. At that time, he went to the office and asked him, "Director Choi, what is going on, Agent Lee Shin Hyuk?" He bluntly cut him off, meaning, arrest Lee Shin Hyuk immediately and protect Yu Chai-won. The possibility that he is a North Korean agent is getting clearer. This is an order from above. Finally, piecing everything together, Taegon was bewildered. "Damn it, what the hell is going on?" Shin Hyuk turned his back, leaving behind a few words to warn him, always asking himself why he acts. For an agent, assessing the scene is fundamental. After saying that, he walked away, leaving Taegon behind. He went over to Gyu Hoon, helped his weakened body off the ground, and took him elsewhere for treatment. Taegon gasped, looking in his direction and asking, Why did you let me live?" Shin Hyuk didn't turn back, kept walking and said, "Go tell Choi Ik-soo." With a cold face, he declared without hesitation that not just the intelligence agency, but even if the whole country came after him, they still couldn't stop him. A group of people lay dead all over the ground. AG, with a cold expression, lifts a man up. At this moment, in a simple house, Wang Gyu Hoon's hideout, a man is sitting, bandaging a wound on his abdomen. Gyu Hoon closes his eyes, face drenched in sweat. Damn it, the golden days are over. On the floor, an injured woman is breathing heavily. AG strokes his chin. She's not doing well. Shin Hyuk stands by the table, calm. "She'll make it. She's stronger than we thought." AG bows his head. "That's true, her willpower is incredible. Just staying conscious this long is." Suddenly, he pulls something from his jacket. This. Shin Hyuk is silent, looking at you with confusion. AG places a necklace in his hand. Shin Hyuk carefully examines the object in his hand. AG explains that, even injured like that, she still held onto it tightly. He curiously asks Shin Hyuk what it is and why she tried so hard to give it to the captain. Shin Hyuk opens the pendant. This necklace belongs to Teacher Wang. Inside is a Roman numeral clock face. It's the key to where Yu Chai-won is. Persecuted religious followers long ago created an underground sanctuary for worship. This has lasted for over 100 years. Korean Catholic believers also went through 4 waves of oppression and even war. In modern times, because of an unspoken rule that the government and religion don't interfere with each other, they tried to hide their existence. Under the guise of welfare institutions up to this day, that network is still maintained. Truly, right under the light, where the government's hand can't reach. Shin-hyuk's hand stroked the pendant. Teacher Wong had hidden Yu Chai one in a place tied to my childhood. This pendant comes as a pair, allowing us to locate each other using a code. He made his deduction. The teacher must have anticipated a situation where he couldn't inform me of Yu Chai one's location, so he stalled Vanta Black's assault team and let Hae Min escape to scatter the enemy's forces. A flash of Hae Min gravely wounded crossed Shin-hyuk's mind. He had to deliver the pendant to me at any cost, even if it meant his own death. With determined eyes and a cold, sharp face, now, I have to go pick up Yu Chai one. At the same time, at the church, several people in black cloaks are kneeling on the ground. Yu Chai one clasps her hands, her face showing anxiety. She closes her eyes, sincerely praying, Shin-hyuk. Meanwhile, Eiji is discussing with Shin-hyuk. So, what's the next step, Captain? Shin-hyuk responds firmly, honestly, Shika's involvement even with the Korean National Intelligence Service was beyond my plans, but I have no intention of letting them take full control. He recalls the strategy he set. There's something I absolutely have to do after we catch them. Shin-hyuk tells Eiji about the next step, so now I plan to reinforce our forces to deal with them. Hearing this, Eiji is astonished. Reinforcements? You don't mean? Shin-hyuk's eyes were extremely serious. Yes, once again, Team 55 must be assembled. Eiji recalls his former teammates. He tilts his head back, sighs, will those people really listen? In Germany, it's daytime now, at a small villa. In a car with lively music playing, 3, born to be assassins, heading to the endless. The car door opens, I search for the light, I stand there. Right next to the car, a dog is dreaming sweetly, seemingly unaffected by the music. Suddenly, a hand holding a toy wakes the dog up, making it turn to look at the inescapable place. As soon as the stick was thrown, the dog immediately caught it. Maybe this time the pain will come. The car blared with a shrill sound, the music kept playing, but it would eventually fade. A chubby, blonde guy leaned tiredly on the car hood, wiped his sweat, and wondered, phew, what power keeps this old car running without breaking down? He turned to Lucas, who was leaning against the wall, and said, it must have run about 400,000 kilometers by now. At this point, we should let it rest, man. You tossed him a bottle of water. Stop complaining and drink this. He caught it with both hands and exclaimed, oh, why do you give me water with such a fierce look? He popped the beer bottle open with just his thumb. Holding the bottle in his right hand, he gave a cheerful thumbs up with the other. Lucas stood still, smiling gently, his face calm and friendly. He watched the guy drink his beer with relish. The alcohol made his face flush, and he blurted out, delicious. He looked at the dog still playing with the stick. Honestly, Liam had always been like that. An old car and an old dog, plus that odd habit of collecting ugly antiques. After hearing that, Lucas could only close his eyes and sigh. He eyed the beer bottle in his hand. This really was the ideal life for a man. Yet he was always teased for not finding a wife because of his strange personality. Suddenly, the dog seemed to notice something, immediately dropping its toy and standing up abruptly. It started growling, its eyes sharp. Seeing that, he grew curious. Oh, what's wrong with it? Is it mad at being called an old dog? Lucas also suddenly noticed, his gaze turning alert. He shouted loudly, Hans, get off the hood right now. But the guy didn't have time to react, still frozen in place. The guy was still confused when he was suddenly hit by a hail of bullets. What the? Witnessing the scene, Lucas's eyes went blank, with a flash of murderous intent. The blonde guy fell, and he dashed forward, whistling to give the order. Receiving his master's command, the dog swiftly ran out the door. Lucas immediately got into the car. The car door was quickly shut. Lucas pulled out his gun he always kept hidden, ready for battle. A second later, he slammed on the gas. The car crashed straight through the wall, sending debris and smoke everywhere. A few guys waiting outside started firing non-stop. Lucas calmly turned the steering wheel. The car sped out. He swerved, and the car shot onto the road like a shadow. Rolling down the window, Lucas kept his eyes on the road but expertly aimed his gun at them. He fired 3 shots at the attackers, hitting them with perfect accuracy. Lucas spun the steering wheel sharply a few times. The car spun continuously in circles, creating a thick cloud of dust all around. The rest couldn't keep track of his movements and could only fire blindly. Even though the car was speeding, Lucas inside was completely unfazed. Every bullet he fired hit its target in turn. The bald leader hurriedly shouted, "Stop him!" The others followed orders and stood in front of the speeding car. They pulled out weapons they had prepared from their bodies. 2 grenades were thrown onto the car. Lucas looked at what was in front of him, his pupils contracting. A second later, Loud explosions rang out, his beloved car was burned and shattered. They cautiously held their guns and moved toward the thick, black smoke rising up. The bald guy sneered, "Is that all? Nothing impressive." The guy next to him with the drug sneered too, "After we finish this job, how about we ask to join their organization? I heard the pay is pretty good." Right at that moment, a gun barrel suddenly appeared from the explosion, aiming straight at them. The two in front were stunned when they saw it. The bald guy was shocked and frowned. Before they could react, a series of shots rang out, making them scream. From the fire, a pair of feet quietly stepped out. A man holding a gun, expressionless, Liam Lucas, German national, former teammate of Lee Shin-hyuk from Unit 55. A thick black smoke rose in the forest. That smoke came from a large fire. Beside it lay a group of people sprawled on the ground. Lucas poked one of them nearby with his gun when suddenly a voice called out. "Hey, why isn't anyone answering?" Lucas glanced at the people around him. The voice sounded annoyed. "Maybe this damn radio is obsolete." Lucas widened his eyes, his brows slightly furrowed. He reached up to touch the wireless earpiece on his ear. On the other end, someone was trying to call Lucas. Can you hear me?" Lucas answered emotionlessly, unable to report due to strong resistance from the target. The other person was startled by his voice and cursed, "Damn it, you scared me." On the other end, someone asked in confusion, "But is the target really that strong?" "According to the info we got, he's supposed to be just an ordinary retired guy. We'll have to ask them to pay us more." Hearing this, Lucas grew thoughtful. "Them?" he echoed, then said, "Yeah, even though I don't know where he came from, he's definitely strong." Lucas straightened up. The other person went on, "I heard he used to be in some special unit. What was it again?" "The 55th unit from Eastern Europe, or something like that." Lucas was surprised to hear that, but the other person continued, "Anyway, let's talk later. We need to deal with the scene first, check everything carefully so we can demand compensation for our losses." Lucas was lost in thought. He remembered his friend riddled with bullets. Someone who knew his identity had hired these people. Because of him, Hans. The voice on the other end asked, "Hey, any casualties?" But Lucas was still deep in thought. Hans. When the other person got no response, he shouted, "Hey." Lucas answered in a low voice, "Yes." Hearing that, the other person asked irritably, "Yes? Damn it, how many have died?" Looking at the bodies scattered on the ground, he answered, 20. "No, 21. The other side asked in shock, What the hell, you're only sending 20 people?" Lucas's face was full of murderous intent. "No, that's right, including you, who's about to die." Hearing that, the man couldn't help but be stunned. Lucas didn't care much. He tossed aside the earpiece. He walked toward the burning car. Lucas approached and looked at the car that was making noise. He bent down to pick up the disguised phone that kept ringing. Lucas frowned as he held the phone in his hand. At the same time, in the morning at a hospital in New Zealand. In a hospital room, Tanga is sitting beside the hospital bed. The person lying on the bed has a face covered with injuries. Tanga sits silently with his head bowed in sadness. Behind him, a doctor and another young man look at him with sympathy. The doctor approaches, "I'm sorry, but while your brother's external injuries aren't severe, because of the serious brain trauma, we can't say when he'll wake up." Tanga says nothing and remains silent. At this point, the young man speaks up, "Incidents like this rarely happen in such a remote place. It's very difficult to identify a suspect, so the investigation is facing obstacles." He says softly, "There's no need to investigate." The young man is surprised, "What?" Tanga bowed his head slightly. "The wounds of my loved ones are also my wounds, and handling the aftermath is something I have to deal with." "You are Tamora Tanga, nationality New Zealand, former member of Unit 55, former teammate of Lee Shin-hyuk." Soon after, the phone rang. Someone was calling Tanga. At the same time, Lucas also received a call. Both of them answered at the same time. On the other end, Shin-hyuk spoke up, "It's me." With a serious expression, Shin-hyuk said, "I heard things have gotten complicated. It's really unfortunate." Lucas grew impatient. "If you know something, you'd better say it now." Tanga only asked, "Is this related to the captain?" Shin-hyuk replied in a low voice, "Me, because of my own personal revenge." Shin-hyuk recalled how he had previously gone after the Shika crime organization alone in South America. "Now they've realized that I'm interfering with their operations." Iksu's face couldn't hide his worry. Countless soldiers were called in. They've mobilized all their networks worldwide and started tightening their grip. Tanga questioned, "So, those Shika people are targeting us, the former Unit 55 members connected to the captain?" Shin-hyuk immediately replied, "Just as you said, Tanga." Shin-hyuk pictured those soldiers threatening the people in the mansion with guns. "In this situation, Shika will definitely threaten your lives. They're stronger and more dangerous than expected." On Lucas's side, the car kept burning. He warned, if you don't want to get dragged into my personal matters, then I'll find a way to help you escape. Your personal matter? Lucas stopped in front of someone lying on the ground. He lifted this person in his arms and said to Shin Hyuk, don't get me wrong, Lee Shin Hyuk. They have trespassed on my territory and killed a longtime friend of mine. Anga thought of his friend lying in the hospital bed, it's the same for me. Both spoke with determination, now, they are my enemies too. Hearing that, Shin Hyuk said, in that case. He told the other two, I will send the time and location for the rendezvous as soon as possible. Shin Hyuk mouthed, the objective is. His face was full of murderous intent, to wipe out all our enemies. In the forest, leaves brushing against each other create a rustling sound. Below, a man in a white suit is approaching. He reaches out to check the pulse and breathing of someone on the ground. He stands up and looks at the people scattered across the ground. He walks over to the only person still conscious. That person looks up at him, you are. Wearing a red mask, he sneers, Co Tae gone, Vanta Black, what a pathetic sight. Report the current situation. The man named Tae Gon lowers his head and replies, it was overwhelming. Fang Alpha Team's pursuit had no effect on Lee Shin Hyuk. We were helpless. He looked up at the masked man, and the man warned him not to get in his way. Even if the whole country tried, no one could stop him. The masked man glanced at the people lying on the ground, but none of them were dead, only badly beaten. Tae Gon was surprised when he realized this. He asked, so, they're all still alive? The man turned to warn Tae Gon, so, you feel relieved now? Don't you know what humiliation is? This just proves how overwhelming the difference in strength between you and him is. Tae Gon lowered his head and replied, though I don't deserve to say this, Lee Shin Hyuk is on a completely different level. He's nothing like a retired fighter. His whole face was swollen from the beating, and on Yu Chai One's taxpayer side, it was rumored that Tae Gon recalled the person who jumped into the fight, a former member of Unit 55, Lee Shin Hyuk's old teammate. The masked man widened his eyes. Save that ridiculous excuse, explain it in detail later. Tae Gon raised his head, stammering, it's true, Lee Shin Hyuk. Was it really him who kidnapped Yu Chai One and threatened the organization? From my conversation with Lee Shin Hyuk, I felt there was something very different from the mindset of a typical terrorist. He frowned at your words, wondering if the superior's judgment might be mistaken. The man reached out and grabbed Tae Gon's collar. He used his strength to lift Tae Gon off the ground. Suddenly grabbed by the collar, Tae Gon couldn't help but be startled. Amazed, he thought to himself, how could a human be this strong? Is this guy really that powerful? Before Tae Gon could think, the man forcefully slammed him to the ground. Thrown hard, Tae Gon slid across the floor. He glared in warning, saying that if you dare doubt the organization's path, you'll be eliminated too. Tae Gon pushed himself up on shaking arms. No, there's absolutely no way that would happen. The man turned away indifferently. Yu Chai Wan, that's none of my business. My only goal is. His voice dropped a little. I will, with my own hands, definitely. He pictured Shin Hyuk's face. Kill Lee Shin Hyuk. A pair of feet stopped at the door. Inside was a bedroom. A flicker of fear crossed Chaewon's face. She let out a soft cough. Suddenly, a woman approached from behind. Kwok Mal Ya, also known as Grace, president of the underground church's Our Lady Mary Society. Chaewon turned and spoke, this is, the storage room, right? Hearing that, Mal Ya irritably retorted, what do you mean, storage room? It's a bedroom, a bedroom. Her voice was full of contempt. You still have the nerve to ask for more with a room like this? Typical princess, really. Startled, Chaewon replied. Then Mal Ya handed her a brown towel, saying, you only get one towel a day. Chaewon held the towel in her hands, looking pitiful. Mal Ya just stared at her with obvious disdain and annoyance. She crossed her arms and looked away, saying, HMPH, I don't like troublesome people like this. If you're not satisfied, you can leave. I'm only letting you in out of respect for Shin Hyuk and Gyu. Hoon, it seems this place isn't suitable for you. Hearing that, Chaewon immediately spoke up, and no, that's not it, I'm already very grateful for this. Mal Ya continued to mock her, saying that whether she used to be an artist or even the president, now she's just a guest temporarily staying here, so she should recognize her circumstances and not ask for too much. She emphasized, don't cause any trouble either. Right after that, she stepped closer, closing the distance and shouted, just stay quiet and leave, this is a warning, a warning. Chaewon was terrified, her voice trembling, why yes, okay. A strange man secretly watched Chaewon and then spoke up, oh dear, so young and so pitiful. She wondered and asked, who are you? Without waiting for anyone, the man spoke again, "Hey Malya Grace, why can't you treat this poor girl a little more gently?" And that man's identity was Kim Gap-tik, also known as Gregory, chairman of the Underground Church Pastors Association. Mrs. Malya became even angrier and shouted, "This old man is always meddling in other people's business, do you want to skip dinner tonight?" He rubbed his ears and complained. Immediately after that, he jumped up, shouting back, "You old witch, how dare you threaten me with food?" But Malya didn't stop, her sharp voice rang out non-stop. "What, witch, huh? Are you done talking? Gap-tik, you old bastard, do you want to die today?" His anger boiled over, and he yelled, "It's not Gap-tik, it's Gregory." Quack Malya. Suddenly, a group of people walked in from somewhere and said, "Wow, isn't this Yu Chai-won? What are you doing here? You really are stunningly beautiful." That remark made Chaewon embarrassed. Malya suddenly became serious again and reminded them, "Shush, shush, everyone go prepare for the mass. What's so beautiful that you have to make a fuss about?" Chaewon looked at her from behind. Suddenly, a ball flew straight toward Chaewon. The two boys looked absolutely terrified. Malya growled angrily, "You brats." Chaewon picked up the ball and gently reassured, "It's okay." Malya turned back and watched her slowly stand up. She held the ball in her hand, looking at the trembling boy with affectionate eyes. Then she held the ball out to the boy and asked, "Here, what's your name?" The boy stammered, It's." Standing straight with a guilty look, he stuttered, "Min-soo." Hearing his full name, she smiled and asked, "Min-soo, can I play ball with you?" Her words made the boy beam with excitement and he immediately replied, "Yes." Another boy also shouted joyfully, "Awesome." Malya and Gap-tik witnessed the whole scene. Malya spoke up in confusion, "Well, I give up. I wonder if she even understands her own situation." Suddenly, Kang Byongjun jumped in and continued what Malya was saying, "Anyway, while she's here, she's part of our family." Malya recognized him and respectfully said, "The director is here." Kang Byongjun shared his thoughts, "Usually, when there's material abundance, the spirit is lacking." He added, "But Chaewon's heart is truly warm." Saying that, he looked over at Chaewon, who was happily smiling while playing with the children. Mrs. Malya responded to him, "She's not a bad kid. She even looks as graceful as I did when I was young." As for Gap-tik, his eyes lit up with curiosity, hesitating as if he wanted to say something. Malya noticed and turned to say, What now? Are you really looking for a fight today?" With that, the two of them started to tussle. Byongjun pondered, thinking he shouldn't affect the children anyway. He silently thought to himself, "I should report the new follower to the leader." Suddenly, the ball was kicked out onto the grass. Chaewon spoke up, "Let me go get the ball." She calmly bent down to pick up the ball. Suddenly, she froze. In another setting, a badly injured man was sitting in a room. At that moment, another man walked in and asked, "How are you feeling, sir?" The injured man is Wang Gyuhoon. He responds to the question, "Well, I can still get by, but I'm old now, so." Suddenly, Gyuhoon changes his tone and asks another question, "Hey, after you get Yu Chai-won, are you going to officially make a move?" Shin Hyuk replies, "Yes." Gyuhoon grows suspicious. Behind them, "It's not just a drug distribution ring, is it? I don't know what's going on since I retired, but no matter what, the National Intelligence Service can't act so easily. Those Shika people must have an unprecedented scale and influence." At this, Shin Hyuk says thoughtfully, "Sorry, I didn't expect I'd have to mobilize even the Vanta Black Squad." Gyuhoon calmly asks, "Have you contacted Do-won yet?" Seeing Shin Hyuk stay silent, he asks in confusion, "What's wrong? You two are really close." Elsewhere, a prisoner sits in a dark cell, with some information about him, 8226, real name Lee Shin Hyuk, sentenced to life for assault and murder. His eyes exude a terrifying murderous aura. In addition, Wang Gyuhoon is also present. A guard says, according to reports, he's recently been under special surveillance. After hearing this, Gyuhoon orders, "Hand him over." Following the order, the guard turns inside and calls loudly, 8226, "Move." With that, he unlocks the door. Shin Hyuk stands up. He steps toward the door. There's absolutely no fear on his face. Gyuhoon sighs and says, "Wow, look at those eyes. Take him away." With that, they start moving forward. Shin Hyuk remained calm as they led him away. Suddenly, another prisoner spoke up. Wow, his expression was really fierce. Then he turned to Shin Hyuk and started a conversation. "Nice to meet you, I'm Lee Do-won. Let's do a good job together." Shin Hyuk stayed silent, his face cold as ice. Suddenly, the loudspeaker crackled noisily. Someone shouted into the speaker, "Hey, can you hear me?" The owner of that voice was Gyuhoon. He raised his voice, "You trash from the board of directors, do you want to know why you were called here?" A series of prisoners knelt down. Yu-hoon continued, the Republic of Korea, this great free democratic nation. Finally, he emphasized, for the first and also the last time, only this once, he had decided to give you all a chance. The prisoners simultaneously looked up when Yu-hoon spoke, to see if this trash could actually be recycled. He threatened them, or else they'd be eliminated right here. Shin Hyuk's eyes turned sharp. Yu-hoon concluded with one sentence, if you want a chance at freedom again, then prove it. Yu-hoon's voice echoed, to the south of this prison there's a small mountain. He explained the rules, reach the peak and return here in the shortest time possible. Yu-hoon furrowed his brows, only half of the first group will survive. He smirked, the rest will be eliminated. Begin. After he said begin, everyone started running frantically, but Shin Hyuk didn't react. Seeing that, Do-won asked, hey, why are you still standing there? He smiled and said, if you don't run, you'll fall behind. At that moment, Shin Hyuk was still lost in thought about Yu-hoon's words, if you want a future of freedom, prove it. He suddenly realized, a future of freedom? Shin Hyuk's legs started to move. If I survive. He began to run, then I'll have a chance. Shin Hyuk rushed ahead of the other prisoners. Soo-min. At this moment, another prisoner has arrived inside the forest. Ahead of him, two other prisoners are also running forward. He starts running after them. But then a hand grabs his shirt. He gets thrown back. The prisoner who just pushed him down laughs smugly, oh man, look, there's something on the back of your neck. The other prisoners are bewildered, thinking, is this really necessary? Do we really have to break the rules? That arrogant guy threatens them, what, you think all you have to do is run? Criminals wanting a fair society? After speaking, he turned and ran away, not forgetting to mock, oh my, idiots. He said, anyway, half the people here will die. Immediately after, he rushed to attack the other prisoners fiercely. On Shin Hyuk's side, he and Do-won were running together, one behind the other. Do-won turned to Shin Hyuk and started a conversation, hey, you're really fit. Since we're in the lead group, let's talk. Without waiting for permission, he asked, how did you end up here? Shin Hyuk didn't bother to answer even though the other kept asking, hey, are you listening to me? You're only in the lead because of me. Earlier you were still stumbling. They kept running together, unaware someone was watching them. Right at that moment, a person in black rushed out and blocked their path. Do-won's eyes widened. He didn't hesitate at all and decisively kicked the man in black. The man in black immediately collapsed. Do-won looked at him in awe, thinking, just as expected. If I hadn't reacted quickly. At that moment, another guy appeared behind Shin Hyuk. He seemed to sense it and quickly turned around. Shin Hyuk grabbed him by the neck and slammed him down. He took him down in an instant. He immediately lay unconscious down there. Seeing that, Do-won couldn't help but exclaim, what is this, judo or something? Shin Hyuk still coldly ignored him and turned to look elsewhere. He scanned the surroundings to stay alert. A loud scream rang out from behind. At that moment, the prisoner who had pushed down another prisoner earlier appeared behind them, swinging a baseball bat. Just as he attacked, Do-won quickly turned around and blocked his strike. Seeing this opponent wasn't easy, he yelled out. Then he kicked him in the stomach, saying, you'll be the next one, dare to step up? Do collapsed, clutching his stomach in pain. That arrogant prisoner showed off, what is this? Since when have these guys been clinging to me? Has something happened in prison? He turned to target Shin Hyuk, thinking, as long as I get into the top half, that's enough. I can't stand having someone standing in front of me. He swung his baseball bat proudly, so, just die. Shin Hyuk coldly looked up at him. A moment later, there was only the sound of a single impact. Shin Hyuk used judo to lock him down. He cried out in pain, begging, stop, stop. This guy, no, damn it. Are you going to let go or not, huh? His hands, locked by Shin Hyuk, are now trembling. Do-won in the corner can only stand there and watch. That prisoner, unwilling to give in, shouts, damn it, just you try, if I get out of here, I'll kill your whole family, that's what made me famous. Shin Hyuk coldly stares at him with murderous eyes. Without hesitation, he twists the man's arm back. A crack echoes, and the man screams in pain. After dealing with him, Shin Hyuk stands up. He slowly approaches Do-won and says, I've killed someone before. The day before the Asian national judo team selection, other athletes, out of jealousy, hired strangers, and they. Shin Hyuk choked up and said, they assaulted my wife, and my little sister had just started middle school. His face was filled with sorrow as he recalled the past. I was too late. I yelled at all of them until I lost my voice. After that, Shin Hyuk reached his hand out to Do-won. Do-won immediately grabbed his hand tightly. He sighed and said, I'm in the same situation. Then Do-won reintroduced himself, I'm Lee Do-won. Shin Hyuk also introduced himself, Lee Shin Hyuk. Do-won encouraged him cheerfully, let's do our best and go. Somewhere else in the desolate forest. Someone picks up one of the pieces of paper on the ground, calling them useless. On Do-won's side, they've also arrived at the place where the papers are scattered, and Do-won exclaims, "Oh." He looks at those pieces of paper and says, "This is the result." Then he picks them up and says, "If that's the case, let's clean them all up." Do-won looks up and asks Shin-hyuk, "Hey, what do you think? Let's shoulder everything together and get through this." At that moment, the others hear Do-won's voice. The fattest one among them turns to look at them. The aggressive guy blocked the way and threatened us, "Oh, I've been waiting for you bastards to come and get that thing." He pointed at his temple and taunted us, "Anyway, you're just coming to grab the marker and leave, right? No need to go up there. Just beat up the ones coming down." He glared menacingly at the two of us, "Just steal the marker, right?" Do-won looked him over and assessed, "This guy looks like he's mentally challenged, but I still feel uneasy." "Do you feel that way too?" Shin-hyuk just stayed silent and said nothing. Then there was a loud noise. A while later, over at Gyu-hoon's place, he was waiting for someone to arrive. At that time, Shin-hyuk and Do-won also returned, just the two of them, no one else. Seeing that, Gyu-hoon was puzzled. "Just the two of you? Is this everyone?" Do-won replied to Gyu-hoon, "Yes, there's no one else." He held out the pieces of paper and dropped them in front of him. "We have our contacts here." The slips of paper fluttered to the ground at Do-won's feet. Then he confidently said, "To help the busy officials a bit, we've selected some people at our level. Is that all right?" At that, the corner of Gyu-hoon's mouth twitched. He questioned, "What have you selected? Who told you to act on your own? If you keep meddling." Gyu-hoon approached Shin-hyuk and threatened, "Then we'll have to clean up everything." Shin-hyuk wasn't afraid at all and replied frankly, "If that's the condition to pass this test, then we will comply properly." Hearing that, Gyu-hoon couldn't help but be amazed and excited inside. "What the hell is this guy?" he questioned. "What exactly did you choose? Who told you to act on your own, huh? If you keep messing around." Gyu-hoon moved toward Shin-hyuk and threatened, "Then we'll have to clean things up ourselves." Shin-hyuk wasn't afraid at all and replied frankly, "If that's the condition to pass this test, then we will comply properly." Hearing that, Gyu-hoon couldn't help but be amazed and excited inside. "What the hell is this guy?" Do-won looked at the two mysterious people, his face full of confusion. "How did the atmosphere become like this?" Gyu-hoon glared at Shin-hyuk. Shin-hyuk didn't just glance back, either. Suddenly, he burst out laughing. "These guys are really bold." He muttered, "Lee Shin-hyuk and Lee Do-won, huh?" Do-won looked at the person in front of him as if he were a lunatic who only knew how to ask questions. Gyu-hoon brushed himself off and walked away. "You two, let's see if you'll still be this confident in the future." He even wished them well, "Try to live a good life, will you?" Do-won smirked at the challenge. But Shin-hyuk didn't really care. Suddenly, a mysterious smile appeared on his lips. Time passed. Suddenly, a few beeping tones sounded, and someone on the other end answered, "Hello?" A few seconds later, the man finally spoke. Do-won was so startled by the voice, "You. Could it be Shin-hyuk?" "Hey you, where have you been and what have you been doing all this time?" Shin-hyuk didn't answer, just said briefly, "Something happened." The other man grew more confused, "What do you mean? Hey, where are you? I'll come right away." Shin-hyuk looked up at the deep blue sky and hesitated, hung. Finally, after regaining his composure, he continued, "Please help me take care of Soo-min's Memorial Day." Do-won's voice was full of anxiety, "Hey, where are you?" But Shin-hyuk just left one sentence, "I trust you." Do-won hurriedly shouted, "What? Hey, Shin-hyuk," but he had already hung up. Gyu-hoon listened and sighed, "Oh man, that's really rare." He twirled a toothpick and said, "If that's the case, wouldn't it have been better to call Do-won? At least he would have been a source of strength." Shin-hyuk replied coldly, "That's too dangerous. In this situation, if Do-won helps me, he might not be able to work for Vanta Black anymore. I can't drag him into betraying the organization." Gyu-hoon nodded in agreement, "Yeah, that guy has always been loyal to the organization." He didn't argue further and just quietly looked at Shin-hyuk. "But hey, Shin-hyuk, life doesn't always go the way you want." Shin-hyuk silently looked up at the sky. Elsewhere, Do-won was still stubbornly trying to contact him. Hey, Lee Shin-hyuk." All Do-won got in response was a series of harsh beeps. Do-won turned to look at the countless computer screens. Numerous employees were still busy typing code on their computers. Someone timidly reported, "We tracked them but failed, sir." Do-won's face was cold as ice. "Enough, stop, I never expected anything from you anyway." With that, he walked a few steps to a table where a mask was placed. Do-won touched it. Moments later, the cold mask pressed against his face, making the oppression on him intensify. The scene shifted to the vibrant night of San Francisco, USA. A footstep halted in the night. Countless people wandered the streets. The music stirs up the night, drawing even the addict's eyes toward the source of the sound. That thumping beat is coming from the very top floor of the high-rise. Inside the room, bathed in dim lights, is pure debauchery. They're lost in the wild rhythm, swaying non-stop. A guy with dreadlocks is holding a livestream camera. This is the Westside hip-hop godfather, MC Booker's party happening at his mansion, just like the party's reputation. Stars from every industry are here. Right over there, a couple is flirting openly without a care. The streamer keeps praising, mentioning top athletes and pop stars, even pointing out the security detail. He can't stop marveling. Every celebrity in the world seems to have gathered here. He weaves through the commotion, heading toward another door. The door quickly closed. This room was completely silent, a stark contrast to the madness outside. At the end of the room, a big guy was still holding a pretty girl. The guy in the blue shirt, John Magnum, NBCA basketball star, 3-time finals MVP, waving his arms around. Wow, yeah, Booker, this dream-off party is amazing, man. The blonde guy next to him kept praising too. That's right, Booker, dream off is always awesome, it's an endless inspiration. He, Benjamin Smith, top of the X-board ranking for 15 consecutive weeks, flashed a flattering smile. I'll get invited next time too, right? Booker smirked. Benjamin, you son of a XX, all you care about is Tabga. He moved away from the pretty girl. He rummaged around on his body for something. Then he threw out a handful of marble-sized, colorful candies. Take them, this is the grace of God. Smith's pupils immediately contracted. The two of them frantically lunged for the candies, clearly heavy addicts now. Oh, dear. Booker's hand suddenly grabbed Smith's chin. His predator-like eyes locked onto his prey and commanded, "Hey, superstar, bless all your stupid fans too. If you betray my trust, don't expect anything. You'll never set foot here again, understand?" He said, as if disgusted, and a few seconds later, he stood up and walked away. Afraid he'd be cut off, Smith nodded vigorously. Yes, I understand. So, can I keep receiving the grace now? Booker nodded and walked toward the stairs, of course, while the other two devoured the candy like starving wolves. The stairs led to another room, one even more luxurious, with a full-length mirror inside. Booker approached the mirror. He adjusted the suit he had just changed into. Then, Booker stood upright in front of a large screen. Suddenly, someone appeared on the screen. Booker bowed respectfully. Greetings, father. The other man replied in a deep, raspy voice, Booker, my son. He knelt before the man he called father and reported, Father, today's worship ceremony to spread the Lord's grace was also very successful. At that, the man finally smiled in satisfaction. Excellent, Booker. God will bless you. His eyes slowly shifted to the picture hanging on the wall. His voice grew nostalgic. I suddenly remember the first time we met. Hearing father talk about the old days, Booker smiled warmly. I'm truly grateful you lifted me from the slums to where I am today. With that, Booker closed his eyes and prayed, may the Lord's grace fill the whole world. It will overflow. Suddenly, he recalled the addicts outside the door, also driven mad by Tabga. Then, he bowed his head deeply to the man on the screen. God bless. On the other side, the leader of Shika swirled a glass of wine in his hand. The two people standing behind him silently witnessed everything from beginning to end. Solomon grinned. Booker truly is a sheep full of faith. Who would have thought he could impact the North American entertainment market to this extent? This is the result of many years of effort by our Chicago Ron. He thought to himself, even if it's not outwardly obvious due to the closed nature of socialist countries, or the glamorous, brightly lit buildings. But among the high-ranking officials and top stars we target, favors have begun to flood in, which means that behind the scenes, what's really hidden is sex and profit. Solomon looked at Joe and continued analyzing. The beginning in the Far East was a gift left to us by Mr. Higashi. Thanks to him taking control of the main distribution routes in East Asian countries, we were able to realize our ambitions without exposing ourselves to the world. The Shika leader nodded in agreement. Just as expected, the last main hub is now South Korea. A country just as wealthy and modern, South Korea is truly unique. A place that has produced many artists, and although its population is small, the influence of its artists is both similar to and different from that of America. He thought to himself, the next stage of promotion will be ASEAN, India, and even the Arab region, and right now, the top Korean star Yoo Chae-won is truly irreplaceable. Solomon directly stated his opinion, saying that, with that in mind, it would be better if you and Joe took action yourselves now. After saying that, he calmly turned to the person next to him and asked, do you agree, Joe? Joe glanced at Solomon but didn't object. That's right. The head of Shika raised his glass for a toast, cheers, secretly smiling, knowing his day to shine was coming soon. The scene shifts back to the bustling streets of Korea. AG saw the busy crowd and couldn't stop smiling. An eager face with a grin stretched from ear to ear. AG's eyes sparkled as he looked at the cute items hanging from the glass ceiling. He exclaimed, "Amazing, wow, this is the hottest spot in Korea, hip Jiro, huh." AG tried every single street food dish. Even with his mouth full, AG couldn't stop praising, "Wonderful, absolutely wonderful." The neighborhood grew livelier by the minute. And that bustle only drew AG in even more. On the street, the girls chattered excitedly, "Sulgi, how did you get so pretty? Song-hee, Jung-eun, you two are the beautiful ones." AG silently watched the crowd passing by him, surrounded by cheerful sounds. "Oh, Jung-jae, you have to hold your father's hand and follow him. Ya-wung, you rascal, why is it so hard to see you?" Seeing such a gathering, AG instead felt out of place, and his cheerful mood faded a little. Night fell, and the bustling street became quiet. The stalls had packed up and closed. AG walked up and opened the door. The shop owner saw him, smiled warmly, and invited him in. AG looked at the big bag on the table. "Are you sure everything's here?" The man patted the bag. "Iya, I've already received so many dollars from you." Then, he unzipped the bag to show the goods. "But next time, order earlier, okay? Because you were in such a hurry, I really had to work hard. I had to call in all my connections and gather parts from everywhere." He laughed proudly. "I rushed to prepare all this because you're a foreigner, you know. We Koreans are just as passionate." AG could only force a smile at his words. He looked at the pile of parts and said, "Thank you very much." Suddenly, the talkative shop owner asked, "Hey, what is a young man like you going to do with all these scrap parts? Anyone seeing you would think you're making a gun, haha." Hearing this, AG's hand was already ready to draw the knife hidden in his sleeve. The shop owner quickly waved his hand as if to say he was just kidding and continued, "I really like it because I get paid several times more, but I truly don't understand." "Oh, if you're uncomfortable, you don't have to answer. I heard young people these days think asking personal questions is rude, right?" AG's movements suddenly stopped. He slung his bag over his shoulder, smiled, and said goodbye. "It's just a hobby of mine." Somewhere, surrounded by mountains and forests, there was a small house. The bag of components is placed on the table. AG looks at Shin Hyuk and reports, "All the parts have been delivered, Captain." He nods, "Thank you, AG." He asks curiously, "I found these as requested, but with only these components, the manufacturing." Suddenly, AG's attention is drawn to the gun case and gold on the table. "Oh, what's this?" Shin Hyuk suddenly remembers receiving the case. "It's just the outer shell. These are what I could find domestically. This goes beyond just eavesdropping devices or money laundering." He stays silent, saying nothing. AG sighs, Anyway, going alone is really tough. This is my first time in Korea." Shin Hyuk smirks, "You said you wanted to come to Korea, didn't you? I still remember when we both activated the information camouflage skill for beggar mode," sitting silently as AG muttered the names of 77 dishes, Korean pork rib rice, pork belly, grilled chicken, mixed noodles, cold noodles, crab noodles. "I'll eat them all after this is over." AG sighed in frustration, "Seriously, this is organic food, it's organic, you know." When Shin Hyuk finished reminiscing, he quickly assembled each part. In the blink of an eye, he'd put the handgun together, his fingers swiftly cocking it even though its durability would be lower. His other hand loaded the magazine. Shin Hyuk cocked the gun a few more times. Who knows how many more we'll need for the upcoming battles. The kids we're about to face, normal standards won't apply. And the final step is, Shin Hyuk raised the gun as he spoke, murmuring, "This isn't Korea." Then a thunderous bang echoed. Birds in the forest heard the deafening sound and scattered in panic. From Korea, the scene shifts to Vatican City, the seat of the Catholic Church. At this moment, a conclave of cardinals is taking place in the church. One of them speaks up, "Let us move on to the next issue." It is Joachim Christensen, who baptized Gabriel, a Danish national. He holds a paper and nods, "How interesting, this is about Yoo Chae-won, a Korean singer." He then looks up at the two people opposite him. Recently, she has been on the run because of a certain incident and is now hiding in the Seoul Diocese, Korea. Pancras Nucci, baptized Agato, an Italian national, also nods in response. Yoo Chae-won, I have heard of her as well. He adds, clearly intrigued, "Isn't she the artist who has worldwide support, not just in Asia? Why would someone like her be on the run?" Christensen analyzes, "At the moment, we don't know the details, so her staying in the Korean diocese for a long time could cause a lot of trouble. Therefore, I think we should bring her here." Christensen suddenly suggests, an idea beyond anyone's expectations. Nucci was also extremely surprised. "Gabriel, it's truly unexpected that you made such a hasty decision." He continued, "Lately, with drugs spreading widely under the influence of celebrities to the point where the entire city is paralyzed, public sentiment is unstable. Even though Yu Chai One influences the public, if we don't thoroughly assess the situation, we could end up bearing a heavy burden. Christensen tapped the table, but Yu Chai One is also a child of God, and as a Baptist, this matter. Suddenly, another cardinal glanced at his phone in shock. Oh my God, Lord, Jesus Christ, how could things have become so depraved? On his phone screen, the SF Time reported, panic in San Francisco, the growing threat of drugs turning the streets into nights of terror. By Red Storm Jr., published February 1, 2025, San Francisco, once a city famous for its vibrant and beautiful scenery, is now terrifying in reality. The once bustling streets are now filled with addicts. You could say, the horror is palpable in San Francisco, turning its streets into a zombie den. Nucci showed dissatisfaction. The world is increasingly losing its values of faith due to this moral decay, so our Catholic Church needs to become the last stronghold. But is it truly honoring Yahweh for us at the Vatican to take on this unpredictable risk? Christensen responded, that's exactly why I made this proposal. Nucci wondered, what do you mean by that? Christensen explained, as you said, modern technology is quickly infiltrating the Holy Land. People have begun to ignore seeking answers from God, and are becoming increasingly dependent on the material world. Just look at the people present here. Even that cardinal glanced up from his phone, and Christensen continued, nowadays, people are beginning to worship technology that serves humans. We can't keep ignoring the decline of the Holy Spirit like this. His expression was serious, so, taking this opportunity, through Yu Chai Wan, I wonder if we should embrace the entertainment industry, to spread our faith more widely. Nucci was startled and retorted, Joachim Gabriel, you're talking about something that only degenerate outsiders would do. Christensen asked indifferently, then is it right to abandon Yu Chai Wan, who needs God's help? What if something unfortunate happens to her in the Korean diocese? As he spoke, his eyes bored into Nucci. Would you still say that's Yahweh's will? Nucci was left speechless by those words. He sighed, clearly, this issue can't be considered a trivial matter. We should report it to the Pope. Suddenly, a hand reached out. The Gospel of Luke, chapter 15, verse 4. Jesus taught that. The group of cardinals turned back. Each word from the Bible echoed, which of you, having 100 sheep, if he loses one of them? If that man holds the Bible in one hand and caresses the cross in the other, would he not leave the 99 sheep in the wilderness to go after the one that is lost until he finds it? The man suddenly spoke up, saying he'd heard the Pope was very busy, and perhaps this matter didn't need to be reported to that level yet. If you don't mind, I'll take responsibility and care for her in the role of a servant. Christensen looked at him and nodded in greeting. Sacrifice, truly a shining example. Auxiliary Bishop, Cardinal of Brazil, Father Solomon, looked at the passionate young man before him. Solomon smiled without saying a word. From the church, the scene shifted to Gimpo's private airport. In the empty lounge, a flight attendant's voice echoed, announcing to all airport security staff that passengers on private jet B407 landed at 13:11. Under a special directive from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, all procedures and processes are waived. Repeating the announcement, and according to the flight attendant, the plane door opens. A pair of leather shoes steps down. The man's mouth mutters, Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 9, a man may plan his path in his heart. Solomon recites each quote flawlessly, but it is the Lord who determines his steps. He's been in a great mood since he got off. Yu Chai Wan. I never expected the person I've been searching for everywhere would just walk right into my hands like this. Solomon keeps singing, God's grace, vast as the ocean. Another group on the private jet also starts to disembark. Solomon glances at Joe. Hey Joe, this is your first time in Korea, right? How do you feel? Even the weather doesn't seem to welcome us, huh? Joe doesn't pay much attention to his ramblings, nothing special at all, so, Shika, Solomon. At the church, now even more splendid as it's covered by the night sky and the gentle, bright moonlight. The church director sits in a room, quietly reading beside piles of documents stacked around the desk under the tranquil candlelight. Suddenly, the door echoes with 2 knocks. The director calmly speaks, inviting the visitor in. The one who enters is the beautiful global artist Yu Chae-won. She greets, hello, director, and he welcomes her. Hello, Chae-won, please come in. The director kindly asks, life must be quite different now, right? Compared to your old life as a top star, there must be many changes. Chae-won shrugs slightly and replies calmly, it's not that this place is inconvenient, it's my own circumstances that are difficult. Then she got a bit flustered, afraid he'd misunderstand her. Oh, wait, I'm really grateful for the care from Father, Sister Mal Ya, and Mr. Gap Tik. The director, who was also the polite parish priest, replied, may God bless you. Of course, maybe we've cared a bit too much, I hope you can understand. Remembering the warm welcome made her a bit uneasy, but Chaewon still responded gratefully, I'm really happy everyone welcomed me so warmly, thank you for your concern, Director. His expression hadn't changed much, and he continued calmly, I will also pray for you, Chaewon, and now, our diocese wants to be a real support for you. After hearing that, Chaewon looked puzzled and asked, what do you mean, Father? Placing his hand on the book under the table, the priest said, there's a close guest who has come to see you, Chaewon. She was a little surprised and wondered, a close guest? Could it be Shin Hyuk? Suddenly, the door opened and a quiet foot stepped inside. The person who just arrived has white hair, dressed in a black clerical uniform exuding a gloomy air, closes the door. The two turn to look back, and the director, seeing the newcomer, says, they've arrived. The white-haired man squints and gives a strange smile as he introduces himself, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Solomon. Chaewon turns around, confused. He announces, I'm here to pick up Miss Chaewon. Outside the gloomy church, a black sedan has just parked right in front of the door. Shin Hyuk and Aji, dressed in casual clothes, step out of the car and head into the chapel. Aji looks up and, after a glance, comments, looks more normal than I thought, Captain. Both stand silently in front of the gray tiled church. Aji immediately assumes, doesn't seem like a great place to hide. Suddenly, a voice rings out beside them, making both turn. Oh my, who are you? The person who just interrupted is Manhwa, walking with Pastor Association Chairman Gap Tik. She's surprised and says, it's so hard to see you, Shin Hyuk. Gap Tik also smiles and says, you look just the same, our Shin Hyuk. He doesn't say anything, just smiles happily and greets them in return. Then the four of them enter the church together. Manhwa walks ahead, grumbling in annoyance, you haven't shown up in years, and now you suddenly appear like this. Is that all we're worth to you, Shin Hyuk? He replies affectionately, as long as you're healthy, I'm relieved. Gap Tik, hunched over, follows behind, clicking his tongue and criticizing her, really, with that attitude. Then he turns to ask him, and you, Shin Hyuk, your cheeks are so sunken. Are you eating properly? He simply answers, there have been some things going on lately. Suddenly, Sister Manhwa overhears and shouts, hey. She turns back, furious and threatening, is someone giving our Shin Hyuk a hard time? Just tell me, I'll take care of it for you. Aji shuddered and accidentally cried out when he saw the menacing, intimidating face turned toward him. She immediately rushed over, leaning in to scrutinize him as she asked, who are you? Aji broke into a cold sweat, stammering as he tried to confirm, I'm Arataki Aji. An ally, she asked again, Japanese? He replied nervously, yes. Gap Tik and Shin Hyuk had already gone ahead. He asked, is Yu Chaewon's matter related to Su-min? After thinking for a moment, he replied, yes, sir. He let out a sorrowful sigh, why did our Su-min end up like this? He fell silent, reminiscing about the beautiful days of the past. That was when the siblings first came to the church. Su-min was overjoyed and cheered, brother, this place is amazing. Look at this playground. Her face was so happy back then that he couldn't help but feel joyful too. Returning to the present, they had arrived in front of a large, rotting wooden door. Gap Tik saw Manhwa stop and asked, we're here? She held the crack in the door and said, all right. Then she strained her muscles, making them bulge, and forcefully pushed open the rotten door, which creaked loudly. After a noisy moment, the door finally opened and everything went quiet again. Manhwa turned around, smiled, and walked in, saying, I'll go pick up Chaewon. You guys wait here, okay? Aji stared blankly at her strength, then jokingly asked Gap Tik, hey, hasn't that door been fixed yet? He laughed and replied, it must have been fixed a few years ago. Aji looked at the switch next to the door in confusion and asked, then why? Gap Tik replied, you just made Sister Manhwa happy, Shin Hyuk. Manhwa walked into the large hall where the stairs were. She walked up to the director's office door. Manhwa knocked several times and said, Director, it's Grace. Seeing no response, she opened the door and asked in confusion, oh, the consultation hasn't ended yet? Gap Tik, standing beside her, looked inside and suddenly panicked. At that moment, the director was lying motionless on the floor with his eyes closed, in a large pool of blood. Bright red blood was still flowing from his mouth. Gap Tik cried out in panic, oh my god, then immediately rushed in, checked for a pulse, and shouted, Father Roy. The director's pulse had already stopped. With a grave expression, Gap Tik turned and shook his head. Sister Manhwa understood the situation but was still standing there, dazed and horrified. Aji and Shin Hyuk were still waiting outside. Aji observed the surroundings and remarked, this place has a strange atmosphere. It's peaceful and quiet, but there's something off about it. He turned to Shin Hyuk and said with a laugh, Sister back there was really putting on some serious pressure, just like the giant wild beasts we faced during training. Shin Hyuk smiled helplessly. Even though she looks that way, she's actually very soft-hearted and affectionate. Thanks to her, my sister and I were able to get through a time when we had nowhere to turn. While they were engrossed in conversation, both suddenly heard footsteps coming from the distant dark hallway. Eiji said to him, "Captain, it seems they're coming back." He replied, "That's right, now we'll take Yu Chaewon safely home." But contrary to their expectations, they were both stunned when those footsteps turned out to belong to a group of burly strangers. The group stomped over and stood still, blocking the way with an arrogant look at him and Eiji. In the hands of the two men in the center were a gun and a blood-stained, grimy knife. Eiji calmly glanced over and said, "Captain, this seems." Shin Hyuk switched to a serious mode, glaring angrily and responded, "That's right." Looking at the buzz-cut guy in the middle, wearing black sunglasses and grinning smugly, he wearily said, "Things have gone seriously off track." At that moment, at Gimpo's private airport, a plane was parked on the tarmac. Yo Chaewon is here right now, looking worriedly at the person next to her and asking, "Dad, what's going on?" That man's name is Solomon. He smiles gently to reassure her, "You're probably confused because you had to move so suddenly, but don't worry, Ms. Chaewon." He turns and says confidently, "The bodyguard Lee Shin Hyuk you're waiting for has asked us to take care of you." Chaewon asks in confusion, "Shin Hyuk? But why didn't he come here himself?" Solomon, who's been holding a strange indigo notebook engraved with the word, Bible, continues to make up a story. "Mr. Shin Hyuk will be here soon, miss. I understand how you feel. But think about it." Chaewon recalls her frantic days when she first sought out the Korean diocese as Solomon continues, "You came to the Korean diocese on Mr. Lee Shin Hyuk's recommendation. Right? I'm just here at the request of the Korean Catholic Church." Feeling manipulated, she apologizes awkwardly, "I'm sorry. Because of the situation, I doubted someone who was trying to help me." He offers a fake comforting smile, "It's all right, that's understandable. From your life as a celebrity to now being chased by mysterious people, I think you have every reason to be confused." Chaewon stammered sadly, "Thank you, Father, for understanding." Solomon led her to the dim staircase up to the plane, almost completing his mission while secretly thinking, "Still, I look forward to meeting that Lee Shin Hyuk she mentioned." By now, the plane had been flying high in the night sky for a while. Chaewon sat there, her heart weighed down with worries. Solomon, sitting next to her, suddenly asked, "Are you feeling uneasy?" Chaewon lowered her head sadly and replied, "Yes, after all, there has been a series of unexpected events lately." He kept that fake smile and reassured her, "Don't worry, we'll leave Korea for a safer place." Then he emphasized, "That place is Brazil." Chaewon was startled when she heard that. Brazil? She recalls the chaotic days, haunted by the sound of gunfire and terrifying riots. Solomon notices her hands trembling in absolute fear. He reassures her, "Please stay calm, I understand your situation very well, Chaewon." A scene appears of people kneeling in prayer before a statue symbolizing God. He explains, "But Brazil is different from what most people think. 80% of the population are Christians, and it is actually safer than you imagine. It's also an important center for our Catholic Church." Chaewon listens quietly, still downcast, and softly replies, "Yes." Her eyes brighten a little as she comforts herself, "Right, they were sent by the church to protect me. It should be fine." The plane continues forward through the tranquil, mystical sky. In stark contrast to what was happening below, the church was in chaos as everyone panicked over Chaewon's disappearance. At that moment in the church lobby, the man in black sunglasses grinned slyly and charged at Shin Hyuk with a knife. He had already drawn his handgun and dagger, firing continuously at the attacker with both hands. The man in black easily dodged the bullets, moving as swiftly as the wind. Before Shin Hyuk could react, the man had already closed the distance and was right in front of him. The man in black immediately slashed down several times, but Shin Hyuk dodged them with ease. He smirked confidently, feeling in control of the situation. Suddenly, instead of dodging as usual, Shin Hyuk lifted his leg and spun around quickly, leaving the attacker stunned. Before he could react, the heel of her shoe shot forward like an arrow, right up to his face. Shin Hyuk flipped gracefully, bracing a hand on the ground and kicking hard at the man in dark glasses, nearly knocking his jaw out of place. The crew cut guy froze after being attacked, his head still tilted to the side. Then he slowly turned back, glaring and flashing a menacing smile, saying, "Just as the rumors say, you're pretty tough." Shin Hyuk looked serious, glancing over with surprise that he was still perfectly fine, thinking suspiciously, "That kick." He bared his teeth in a wide grin, pulled out a knife, and charged in to attack. In a flash, he slashed repeatedly, aiming straight for Shin Hyuk's head. He didn't back down or dodge either. He waited for the right moment, just as the knife brushed past his face. He quickly ducked down and lunged forward. His other hand, already holding a gun, swung up just as the attacker pulled his knife back. Immediately, he easily aimed the pistol straight at the neck of the man in sunglasses, leaving him stunned. Both stood frozen while Shin Hyuk held the advantage. Suddenly, heavy footsteps approached. Someone rushed in, driving his knee forward. A blonde guy with slick back hair closed in quickly, kicking Shin Hyuk's gun away. Disarmed, he glanced over. The two stared at each other, filled with a menacing intent. Immediately, the blonde guy pulled out a submachine gun and fired continuously at him. But he quickly dodged to the side, right next to him. Right after that, he gained momentum with one leg and spun toward him. Shin Hyuk jumped up and delivered a powerful knee strike straight to his face, knocking the gun out of his hands. The blonde guy staggered and collapsed onto the ground. At this point, the gun was left lying alone on the floor. However, the blonde guy with slick back hair wasn't knocked out, but groaned, leaving him confused and surprised. He knelt to stand up and said, "You suppressed the recoil of your move to create acceleration, huh?" His face was completely unscathed. He just rubbed his neck lightly and grumbled. "What a headache, what's with this guy?" The guy in dark glasses standing next to him warned, "Don't lower your guard. Even if it's in the past, he once defeated the Kyokuro branch chief." The blonde guy complained, "Unbelievable, that Kyokuro guy." Shin Hyuk, on guard with his knife ready, felt a bit confused inside. These guys aren't ordinary. The hits landed, but they're fine. What kind of people are they? It was still the same ceiling, but from a different corner. AG stood in a defensive stance, staring straight ahead. He was facing a burly man with thick eyebrows like a black bear. The guy grinned maniacally with strange golden eyes and lunged at him. In a flash, that giant hand swung down, as if trying to crush AG's face, but he stayed calm and looked unconcerned. The hand clenched tightly as if to grab him, but AG was already gone, leaving only an afterimage behind. He leapt high into the air and simultaneously threw a flurry of darts at the black bear. While he was bewildered and didn't know how to block them, a figure suddenly dashed forward. The one who rushed up didn't hesitate to face the flying darts, gripping a powerful bear claw weapon tightly in his hand. In an instant, all the darts were knocked away and fell to the ground. AG stared in surprise. At this moment, Shin Hyuk was also alert and fighting, sharing the same thought as AG. These guys, their strength and speed, are nothing like regular mercenaries. On Shin Hyuk's side, the blonde-haired guy kept charging in madly to attack. He punched him hard, but the man in dark glasses came at him slashing wildly with a knife. He silently assessed them as specially enhanced beasts, then wondered, has Shika already? Meanwhile, in another room, a small secret passage behind the shelf was opened. Sister Malya guided the children to evacuate, saying, "Come on, kids, hurry up." Still sleepy and confused, the children asked, "Huh? Why are we leaving so suddenly?" The brown-haired boy anxiously turned and asked, "What's happening?" Gaptik, following right behind, smiled to reassure him, "This is just a disaster safety drill like the ones we sometimes do during the day." Another little girl sadly hugged the nun's leg and asked, "We'll be okay, right?" She smiled gently, patted the girl's shoulder, and replied, "Of course. If you all listen, I'll give you candy later." The girl cheered up and said, "Yes, sister." The kids obediently crawled into the small secret passage. Sister Malya became anxious again and said, "Now we have to find Shin Hyuk and help him." Gaptik nodded in agreement, "Let's hurry." Suddenly, hurried and frightening footsteps echoed from outside the door. Malya and Gaptik looked at each other anxiously, not daring to move. Back to the church hall from earlier. Shin Hyuk swung his arm high and landed a strong punch right on the blonde guy's chin. Immediately after, the man in dark glasses lunged to punch him with his large hand, but Shin Hyuk easily dodged and grabbed him. With smooth, skillful moves, he effortlessly threw the man to the ground with one hand. His shoulder hit the floor so hard that his dark glasses flew off. Groaning in pain, he sat up sluggishly and grumbled, "Ah, this guy just dislocated my shoulder. That blonde guy took a full punch just now but still looks fine, just rubbed his neck a bit and was steady again." He even praised Shin Hyuk, saying it's impressive to use that technique with only one hand. The guy with glasses is now holding his shoulder and looking up, revealing the scary eyes he had been hiding. Even after getting beaten up, he still grins and says, "But soon you'll start to feel fear, because you know all your attacks are meaningless." On his sharp eye, there's a tattoo of the Roman numeral 17. His nickname is Lion 17. He confidently continues, "The end of this fight will be your death." Behind the blonde's ear is also a Roman numeral 37, his nickname is Lion 37. Similarly, on the fist of the guy who just punched away the dart, there's a tattoo, he's Lion 29. And the huge guy with golden eyes has a Roman numeral tattoo on his neck, He's Lion 35. Shin Hyuk notices all of this, the Roman numeral tattoos, the golden eyes and white hair. He boldly speculates, could it be the side effects of human weapons have forcibly unlocked their body's abilities? He wonders to himself, could it be they've lost the ability to feel pain? Above the church, the serene bright moon finally emerges from the layers of clouds it had been hiding behind. Suddenly, the birds perched nearby scatter frantically as if frightened by something. A steady footstep approaches right in front of the church door, where chaos reigns inside. A terrifying arrival by someone no one expected to be here at this moment. Joe, the final destination, the Korean Buddhist church, has arrived. Shin Hyuk calmly watches as the two lions charge toward him. He spreads his arms wide, skillfully dodging the attack. Shin Hyuk spins and slashes one of the lions, number 17, on the shoulder. Retracting his knife, he looks toward lion number 37. Shin Hyuk gently slid the knife across his forehead, leaving a cut behind. Then he spun the knife in the air to change its direction. Shin Hyuk caught it. He slashed at lion 37's body. He glanced at that lion 37. The guy also frowned and glanced back at him. Lion 37 asked, "What's going on? Is he getting faster and faster? Doesn't he get tired?" Lion 17 continued, "Just watching with our eyes, we can't keep up. In terms of technique, he's better than us, that's why." He raised his knife, took a fighting stance. "Now, it's time to finish this." Shin Hyuk is also on guard here, thinking to himself that, in terms of skill, the short-haired guy must be the captain. He thinks that if this drags out into a battle of attrition, it won't be to his advantage. Shin Hyuk decides he'll slit his throat in a single strike. Lion 17 charges toward him. Suddenly, a voice rings out, "Get down." Both sides are startled and look toward the source of the voice. Manhwa raises her gun at them. "The Lord's church forbids thugs from entering, you bastards." Everyone is stunned for a moment. Manhwa cocked the gun and fired at them. They started dodging the bullets. Lion 35 ran around wildly to avoid the shots. Lion 37 raised his hands. He punched the ground hard to create a smokescreen, and they slipped away during the chaos. AG praised, "Yoshi, you did great." Shin Hyuk turned around. He recalled what had happened earlier, the strange feeling when he slashed at that body. It was different from cutting flesh. Shin Hyuk speaks up, "Don't be careless, AG, about a guy wearing light armor." AG is confused, that one." Manhwa cautiously says, "Sounds like a bulletproof vest, but even if he's wearing one, taking a hit from this .45 will still knock him out from shock." Just as they mentioned it, they appear again through the smoke and dust. The person next to Manhwa exclaims, "Oh my god, those monsters," and Manhwa worries, I've already run out of bullets." Lion 37 speaks up, "Unbelievable, how can there be heavy weapons in a church? What's the situation?" Lion 17 grumbles, "I can't walk, but I'm not dead yet, it's so frustrating." Then Lion 17 looks at the other two. Number 29 and 35 seem to have taken a direct hit. Lion 37 replies, "Fine, I'll clean it up." Lion 17 complains, "I can handle this alone, damn it." The other one is just as annoyed, "I should have been the one to finish them off." Shin Hyuk is hiding in a corner, secretly watching them. AG whispers, "I think their sensory system has issues, and you agree?" "That's right, they can't feel pain." Shin Hyuk turns to Manhwa, "You two should get as far away as possible." Manhwa worries, "Shin Hyuk, will you two be okay?" The person next to her grabs her hand, "Without guns, we're just a burden." "Let's go, Molly." Shin Hyuk glances at AG, "I'll handle them." Hearing that, AG speaks up, "Captain, don't do that, let's work together." Shin Hyuk frowns, "Wait, there's something I need to check." Then he approaches that lion number 17. He arrogantly says, "What, you're going to fight alone? This guy's got guts." Shin Hyuk asked, "Why are you guys going this far?" He rushed forward and replied, "When you're dead, I'll tell you. I'm ready to fight too." Shin Hyuk and him fought with knives. When he struck, Shin Hyuk blocked. When Shin Hyuk struck, he blocked. Watching from the sidelines, AG was impressed. This guy's skill isn't on our Team 55's level, but the image of the lion-faced man letting Shin Hyuk slash his skin. AG was horrified to realize that he didn't hesitate to use his flesh as a shield. A reckless attack only possible by abandoning defense. He thought, the longer this drags on, the more disadvantageous it is for the captain. But if it's the captain, then he definitely has a plan, AG thought to himself. The lion number 17 suddenly spoke up, "You still haven't learned your lesson, have you?" He smirked, "At that level, you can't do any damage to me." Shin Hyuk glanced away. Seeing that, he approached, "Idiot, it's over." Suddenly, his knife fell to the ground. He stood motionless. "What is this? Why did it happen suddenly?" Shin Hyuk spoke up, "You're the one who lacks the ability to learn, you clueless lion, what the hell?" He said, even though you don't feel pain, the nerves still have their limits. On the other hand, because you can't feel pain, you don't realize the nerves have been severed, he explained. Shin Hyuk continued, in the end, you're just an incomplete piece of junk. The 17-year-old lion roared in anger, ah, you damn bastard. He raised the knife. Take his life. Blood flowed from his body. Shin Hyuk gives the order, keep one of them alive, capture him. AG, you're assigned, understood, Captain. Lion number 37 realizes things are going badly, puts the gun to his head, saying it's all because of his father. He collapses before AG can catch him. AG sighs, how foolish. Shin Hyuk remains silent. Manhwa runs over and asks. She asks, are you alright, Shin Hyuk? He replies, yes, Ms. Chaewon. Manhwa hesitates, she's disappeared, and the director has passed away. Shin Hyuk was surprised. She continued, after Sumin's incident, he worried about you a lot. He clenched his fist and thought, even the innocent director. AG asked Manhwa, did any visitors come today? She replied, today, only people from the foreign church came to the cathedral. AG was surprised, could it be? Shin Hyuk fell silent, then that means Shika might have already infiltrated the Catholic Church, he thought. Shin Hyuk considered carefully, in the worst-case scenario, it would be like with the Intelligence Bureau, how far does their influence reach? Manhwa spoke up, they just arrived an hour ago, so if we hurry now, we might still make it. Gregory is getting ready upstairs, let's move quickly. Then she went upstairs, calling, Gregory, let's go. But then Manhwa noticed something. The scene shows that person has been killed and is being lifted into the air by someone, she screams. Shin Hyuk, also a celebrity, rises up too, sister. When Joe sees him, he speaks up, no one is allowed to leave. Shin Hyuk thinks to himself, it's happened. The worst case scenario. Back to one day before the attack on the church. At that time, Solomon is standing in front of the car with Joe. Solomon says, I'll go to the church to capture Yu Chai-won. Meanwhile, Joe, you check for any Shika moles currently in Korea. Joe replies, understood. Solomon recalls that when he met Shin Hyuk before, the guy protecting Yu Chai-won definitely wouldn't let her go easily. Judging by the way he keeps showing up, he must have another motive besides Yu Chai-won. Then he turned to instruct his subordinate, while I take action, the Lion team will contain any troublemakers. The team leader replied, understood. After speaking, Solomon pondered for a moment. This time, Solomon is crossing the line, but they're only prototypes. He might be imagining that they will malfunction, they're still incomplete, so unexpected elements are inevitable. Solomon concluded that, in the end, the scene still needs strong controllers like him and Joe. The car door closed. Solomon got in but kept the window down to give one last instruction, Joe, after it's done, go to the church. I'll take Yu Chai-won to Brazil by myself. He's scheming, if we come following the Catholic Church's orders under the pretext of protecting her, they'll have no reason to refuse. If they see us, they might get suspicious, so Joe, take the lions who've completed their mission and return home. Solomon reminds us, remember not to cause any more commotion at the church. We just need to catch Yu Chai-won. In the end, he emphasizes, don't create any trouble. The scene shifts to dusk. There's only one car on the road. It moves slowly along the road. Inside is Choi Ik-soo, head of planning and coordination at the National Intelligence Service. He's furious, damn it, everything's gone off track. He thinks to himself, from the start, leaking the defender's business card to Lee Shin-hyuk was supposed to limit his actions within the scope I could control. And I'll handle the problems he caused myself to earn some merit. Ik-soo recalls leaving his business card for Shin-hyuk. Now he regrets it, yet that crazy bastard took things this far. Ik-soo grits his teeth, damn it, Lee Shin-hyuk, you miserable bastard. He can't help but curse loudly as he walks, bastard. He remembers the past. At the head coach selection for Vanta Black, I saw the limits of my abilities. With the usual methods, I couldn't even dream of advancing as I have now. Back then, he climbed the mountain in a snowstorm, thinking to himself, I have to find what I'm best at, the thing I'm best at. Maybe that's what sets me apart from those useless dogs and pigs. At that moment, he slipped and lost his grip on the cliff. Ik-soo panicked. He began to fall freely. But then a rope with a stone tied to it dropped quickly down to him. Ik-soo was surprised for a moment when he saw the rope. But immediately, he grabbed the lifeline. In a panic, Ik-soo looked up to see who had saved him. In the snowstorm, everything was a blur. He only caught a glimpse of a tall figure holding the rope with one hand to keep him up. Ik-soo tries to look more closely. Turns out, that person is the leader of Shika. Back in Korea, after meeting that guy, Ik-soo realizes a truth. He thinks, sometimes. There's a notice posted on the board. It's Ik-soo's promotion notice. He's proud. Building relationships is a skill, too. Looking at that notice, Iksu grins slyly and arrogantly, but now he realizes that rope has become poison. Iksu keeps cursing non-stop in the car. Finally, he stops at a secluded warehouse. When he sat in the car, the noise inside was so loud that even he could feel it. Iksu talked to himself, that's right, in this world, having someone to back you up is a kind of power. Among Korea's top leaders, how many haven't followed the path of major powers like the US, Japan, or China? He reinforced his own misguided beliefs. No, damn it, it's not like I'm betraying my country. What have I done? I'm just trying to love my country in my own way. Iksu slammed the car door shut, yet now it was holding him back. He needed to plan to get rid of Lee Shin-hyuk as soon as possible by using Lee Do-won. As long as that bastard Lee Shin-hyuk was gone, everything would be fine. With that thought, he walked into the warehouse. As soon as he entered, Iksu closed the door again. Lee Do-won wore a creepy red hockey mask, his demeanor calm, but there was an unmistakable aura of madness around him. "Good evening, Captain," he said. Iksu's face twisted in disgust. "Lee Do-won, you bastard. Take off that mask, just looking at that thing makes me sick." He added, "By the way, have you fully understood the situation? In this scenario, we need to lay a trap that Lee Shin-hyuk can never get out of. I've told you, we need to kill at least one captain to make the director of the intelligence agency." As he was speaking, he looked down and noticed something strange. Huh? Iksu was confused by what he was seeing. What is this? Why? The person bound and completely naked was Oh Jong-ki, the second deputy director of the National Intelligence Agency. Iksu was shocked. "Oh no, Deputy Director Oh." Amid his shock, Do-won finally spoke. "I've been thinking about it. It's definitely better to follow the captain's plan," he said, his voice laced with killing intent. As he stepped up behind Iksu, Iksu didn't even have time to react before Do-won slammed his neck onto the table. He starts panicking. "What, this guy, Lee Do-won, are you crazy? What are you doing?" Do-won calmly says, "I'm just carrying out the plan you talked about, accumulating all of Shin-hyuk's evil deeds." Iksu angrily shouts, You're committing treason, you bastard, strong but stupid." Do-won scoffs, "What, treason? This is an order from above, old man." At that moment, the door opens. Joe steps inside. Iksu, terrified, that's... He remembered the past. "Don't worry, ha ha ha." When he saw Solomon and Joe, he remembered him, a senior manager at Shika. Iksu was confused. Why was he in Korea? Right away, Iksu realized his fate. There was zero chance of surviving if he resisted here. At that moment, Do-won pointed a gun at his head. Iksu tried to look back at the face of his killer before dying. "Lee Do-won, you bastard, you've become Shika's man to the bone." After that, the sound of gunfire echoed throughout the area. A lone figure sat hunched on a bus stop bench in the windy, rainy night. It was a man wearing a blank expression, letting out a long sigh. Suddenly, Iksu appeared from behind holding an umbrella and called out, catching his attention. "Hey, Lee Do-won." As soon as he finished speaking, Do-won quickly turned around and bowed in greeting, "Deputy Director Choi." But the other man got straight to the point. "People who do great things make mistakes. Sometimes. Why do you look so down?" Hearing this, Do-won still kept his unhappy expression and replied, "Forget about great things. In the end, I only managed to survive thanks to Shin-hyuk's help. I'm always indebted to him." But Iksu frowned slightly and sighed, "Well, he's exceptional, that's why people keep draining him dry." Raising a cigarette to his lips, he continued, "Maybe that's why that kid's so rude and doesn't know his place. He's really insufferable." Iksu's criticism echoed on, "You should think carefully. Because you protect him too much, he's become that arrogant." Do-won couldn't help but feel troubled. "Why are you being so harsh?" Then both of them fell silent for a moment. Suddenly, Iksu spoke again in a deep voice, cigarette in his mouth. "Lee Do-won, listen up. I know a really good sponsor. Want me to introduce you?" Upon hearing that, he immediately stammered, "As sponsor?" Iksu, still hiding under his black umbrella, continued, "Are you planning to spend your whole life trailing after Lee Shin-hyuk? Hey, forget about motives for a second. Aren't you Vanta Black? Everyone on the team only cares about Lee Shin-hyuk. Lee Shin-hyuk. Who even notices you?" Meanwhile, Do-won's hand clenched tightly, his voice defiant. "Trailing after?" His face cold as ice, he asked, "Who's the one trailing after?" But there was no answer. Iksu just turned away, a mocking expression on his face. At a small house on a late afternoon, someone is holding a gun, aiming the barrel straight at the head of a person slumped over the table. Iksu's face is covered in sweat, grimacing and screaming, "Wait, please, damn it, I'll do anything you want, just spare my life." His scream echoed through every corner, "Please, Do-won." The figure dressed in black was still lying on the table. White smoke rose from the gun barrel, forming a thin stream. The man wearing the red mask quickly sneered, "Oh my, Deputy Director Choi, the Deputy Director of the Korean Intelligence Agency is this cowardly?" While the other person could only shed 2 streams of panicked, resentful tears, "Damn it." Immediately, the masked man added, "Trash like you as Deputy Director? This country is rotten, disgusting, truly hopeless." Meanwhile, Iksu only paid attention to the gun lying prominently on the table. At that moment, the two exchanged a few words, "Take it, pull the trigger, shoot, shoot." "Shoot who?" He immediately received a response, the voice commanding, either him or the guy under the table, one of the two. He seemed like a cold-hearted, indifferent person. "Do whatever you want," he said. "Suicide or murder, your choice." Upon hearing this, Iksu gripped the gun in his hand, his entire body trembling uncontrollably. On one side, there was frantic screaming, while on the other, sweat poured down, and his teeth were clenched tightly. A moment later, at that table, a pool of red syrup poured out from beneath. On this side, Iksu's eyes seemed to lose focus. But the masked man suddenly demanded, "Deputy Director Choi Iksu, from now on, you go back to intelligence, stick to the director, and only do what I order, understood, murderer?" After hearing this, Iksu cursed silently in his mind, "Just wait, you bastard, don't think you'll get away with this," but then quietly replied, "Understood." They stood facing each other with completely opposite attitudes. Wait, what's going on?" Iksu put on a confused, frowning face. Meanwhile, the other party calmly continued, "Lee Shin-hyuk already showed up, yet he's completely unharmed like this. That's just impossible." As soon as he finished speaking, Iksu's eyes widened, Impossible? But it does make sense." However, the masked man retorted, "Makes sense? Like hell it does. This old bastard is so annoying." Right after saying that, a slash swept across his arm. A piercing scream rang out, strawberry syrup splattering all over Iksu's neck. "Damn it." Meanwhile, Joe just stayed silent without saying a word. Right now, the night sky is full of clouds, at the place where 3 pillars rise high. A person collapses freely to the ground. But Joe only puts on a dazed expression, his eyes silently filled with sadness. After glancing at the 2 men, one with black hair, one with white, he then speaks up clearly, "Lee Shin-hyuk," and next to him is the former Japanese teammate from Team 55. As soon as he finishes, Shin-hyuk falls silent, his brows furrowed. "He knows about our existence, and so do Liam and Tanga." Suddenly, a woman with tears in her eyes rushes over and shouts, "This bastard dared to kill Gregory." Seeing this, AG hurriedly tries to stop her, "No, sister." But she ignores him and charges forward, only to be punched directly in the stomach by Joe. Then, she collapsed with tears streaming down her face, looking miserable. At that moment, Joe coldly criticized, "So noisy." Shin-hyuk immediately chimed in, "Stop this pointless act. After all, your real target is me." Joe glanced in one direction and wondered, did he close the distance while we were talking? He looked at Shin-hyuk, whose eye was covered by his hair. Joe thought to himself, he's completely different from the others right now. Someone's footsteps moved at an incredibly fast speed. AG suddenly stopped right behind where Joe was standing. He squints a little, "Captain, I'll move first." And after hearing that, Shin-hyuk just softly calls out, "AG." But Joe is extremely sarcastic, saying it's meaningless. At that moment, 4 more arms appear from AG's body. "Are you sure? That's the ultimate move of the Arataki style, while Joe belongs to Karakuri." Countless black threads keep rushing in. They wrap around Joe's entire body from top to bottom without any hesitation. Even his hands can't escape being tied up. Amidst the flickering light, Joe just silently squints, his face expressionless. Meanwhile, AG is still manipulating countless tangled strings on the other side, deep in thought, wondering what this feeling is. The two create a scene of an uneven match, facing each other. The puppeteer's hands keep trembling, almost as if they're experiencing the sensations of a living creature. Yet, the one being restrained simply lets out a long sigh. With just a light wave of his hand, he easily breaks free from the bindings. This scene makes AG doubt his own eyes. Next, his opponent channels all his strength into a punch. AG quickly joins the rhythm of the fight and dodges in a hurry. This guy is way too dangerous. Even so, he still took a punch to the face. His head was knocked to the side by the force. Then AG immediately collapsed on the ground. Seeing this, Shin-hyuk hurriedly called out, "AG." A moment later, he shakily stood up and coughed, "Captain, I am fine." As soon as he finished speaking, AG spat out a mouthful of blood. The sight shocked Shin-hyuk. Did he really defeat AG that easily? Meanwhile, Joe still wore a cold expression and said quietly, "I told you it's pointless. The difference in strength between the two sides is just too great."